Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for drinks and movies. I'm with the bearded comic bro.
What is going on? Man, I'm excited. It's funny because we have a friend on the show today, and he was out there promoting the show, and he's like, oh, I'm going to be on John's channel, and I think Bearded's on there too. Like, I had to respond to like, son, my name is in the freaking logo. It's
right there above his head.
I'll be there, all right?
Yeah.
But no, man, we're happy to have Ryan. Man, glad you're on, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I didn't even, I don't know how I didn't catch your name on the logo. And then after I recorded it, I rewatched it. I was like, wait a minute, his name is like right there. Why did I say I think at the end? Of course he's going to be there. And then, of course, that's the first comment that comes in. So I'm excited to be here.
Keep you honest.
Yeah.
He's a hot fire take guy. He's always there.
Quick on the draw.
So I got the link
to be
down
here.
below for Ryan's channel. If you haven't seen Ryan before, although he's been on book club, this is the second time here on the channel. So we're happy to have Ryan back. He knows his indie books a ton. So if you're an indie comic book reader and you haven't found Ryan's channel before, you're missing out on some just great content. So highly recommend that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I love finding good indie comic channels. Absolutely. Plus, you got to keep those Thursday guys reading things besides Power Rangers.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. Power Rangers and superheroes.
So let's say hello to the chat. Ruben Guzman, unable to say his tag phrase today. I don't know why.
I was a little early, and I felt like, oh, I should do a Cowabunga fam before Ruben was able to drop that. And I was so early, like Ruben usually is, that YouTube already deleted it from the stream. Missed out.
We got Mark from Legion of Comics, who he and I and Burke have been going round and round on the Tuesday and the Thursday show comment section. It's been I think there's like 20 or 22 comment.
Is there more from this since this morning?
It started this morning. They just did a couple more a little bit ago before we went live. It's still going. It's hilarious. Man. Loving it.
I'll hop in afterwards, but I didn't want to give up too much of my take now.
Well, you know, if you could either read a graphic novel or read that, is what I'm saying. We got PJ King here. Hello to you. We got Todd Christian in the chat. Ryan's in the chat. You can see Ryan there.
Andy's here weird.
I know. Right?
We got Bearded Comic Bro shouted out by D-Rock. What is this?
Re-up his net zero.
Sharp. We got Unruly Simeon in the chat. Thank you for coming by, man. So supportive. And we got Jennifer from Comics Will Break Your Heart. Bearded's partner for Friday night over on the Hero and the Kids show.
That's right.
It's not
and we didn't argue this week. Like, we actually agreed with everything. Because I didn't read the one book that I knew she would love, that I knew I wouldn't love. So I had no opinion on it. Ultra Mega.
Okay, there you go.
The Image one. I was like, she's gonna love this, and I'm not. But if I don't comment, if I don't read it, we can't have a hot take and break our friendship up anymore. So we're good.
We got Coach Vic, huge supporter of this show. Thank you for coming by. He said, did I miss the Will Smith movie? We haven't even started. We're 3 minutes in here, brother. We're just getting going.
We always got time for Will Smith.
Always. We got Kachung. He's wondering if the Snyder Cut, you guys are if Snyder cut us out of Saturday night. No way. No way. We watched on Thursday night. I think, did you watch Thursday morning, right, Ryan?
Mm-hmm. I stayed up for it.
Dedication to the YouTube algorithm.
I watched Thursday afternoon. I blocked out 4 hours of my afternoon to watch it, and somehow I did not get to finish it in those 4 hours.
Wow.
So I watched 3 hours of it and then had to watch the last hour like 6 hours later in the evening.
It's an epic. It's an undertaking. TJ says he's here, and he's nervous because he is a big Suicide Squad fan, so we're going to have to hear from TJ if we say anything negative. Superior Hero Review. Good to see you. And finally, House Till the End. Thank you for coming by. So for those of you that don't know, Tom's here. Sorry. Hi, Tom. Good to see you. For those that don't know, this is irregular Saturday night show that Greg and I do together talking about movies.
Twice a month.
Yeah, it's usually a couple times a month. talk about movies, and we try to have a theme for each month. And knowing the Snyder Cut was coming, we decided that we were going to make this the month of DC movies. And 2 weeks ago, we went through and did all the movies that DC really did before Man of Steel. Now we're doing the second half, the era of Snyder, if you will. And we're going to be talking about each of the films with a larger portion of the end of the show really spent on Snyder Cut and Justice League, the evolution of the Whedon to the Snyder. Does that hopefully work for everybody?
It works, bro.
What are we drinking tonight? Greg, what do you got over there? What do we have?
So I've got Old Faithful. It's on the show a lot. Brewdog, that's Scottish brewery that are stateside brewery is here in Columbus, Ohio. So it's just their basic IPA. It's the IPA that started it all. And then
Nice.
I'm finishing off with a little bourbon so I can
What's
so-
the brand? I can't remember the brand you were going with.
I typically it's Michener's because that's what Jabroni put me on, but right now it's Bullet tonight. So
Bullet. Ooh, there you
so
go.
I'm doing a little Bullet because I feel like I gotta have, and I've made the bourbon a little extra tonight because I'm going against you and Ryan with DC
Against? I
style
don't know about
movies.
this. Really? Are we going against?
I mean,
I don't know.
I've read Ryan's reviews of Batman vs Superman. We're gonna have disagreement.
There's going to be words.
There's gonna be some fight. And I just want to say it up front that anything I say, I love you both. And when I say that you guys are idiots and don't know what you're talking about, it's all in brotherly love.
So there's that. There's that.
I'm
Ryan,
a big fan of Sunny, so it's always Sunny. So I don't take anything too personal. Words are just words.
Ryan, what are you drinking tonight, man? What do you got?
I just have a Modelo
Ooh, nice.
and some lime juice.
I'm trying to stay hydrated. I got some water going, but I've also poured myself a little bit. Where did it go? A little bit of the Woodford Reserve, which is a whiskey that my wife's cousin put me onto, and it was Jabroni approved, but I had to tell him about. I gave him the heads up on that one. It's definitely a very nice whiskey.
It is.
A little sip of that going here with the
like
giant
that a lot.
ice ball in the middle of it there. I don't usually drink that much. It's got like a giant cube of ice in the middle. All right, we
You have one
more
of those
person.
presses that I always see on the internet.
It's got a base and then a like rubber lid, and you just fill it with water. You press the rubber lid on, put it in the freezer, and then it's got a little ice ball when you're done.
Yeah, that's
does.
cool.
I know people with the Death
invest in
Star
this.
one, where it's like a Death Star.
Ooh.
It's like done in the shape. It's pretty cool. I got issues here, and I know he's got some hot takes as well. And he's saying if I compared the awfulness of the Snyder era to a historical event, I would end up fired by Disney. Ouch. Okay, there you go. Okay. Hot take. Let's see here. I did forget the intro. My bad. But we're gonna just roll right into this. We're gonna roll right into it.
You didn't have to. That's what I did in the private chat.
too
You don't have to
excited.
call
I'm too
yourself
excited.
out.
I can't help myself. Yeah, I'm definitely too excited for this. So let's just kick it off. I'm gonna occasionally have to cover up Ryan to show you guys a poster. So here he goes. Sorry, Ryan. Yeah, we're gonna start it all off. Not alphabetically, alphanumerically, I guess you'd say. Numerically, chronologically, with Man of Steel. So, what are your thoughts on this one, Greg? What are your thoughts on Man of Steel?
I was excited for it. I remember when this dropped in the theater. This was kind of the new era of DC movies. And I remember really enjoying it, walking out of the theater going, wow, it was epic. And I'm going off of what I thought of when I initially saw it. Because we hadn't really ever gotten to see the Kryptonian world. Like, having Russell Crowe's character, having those elements in it was pretty cool. This was pre-sci-fi TV show, which I haven't seen, but the Krypton and whatever. So we just hadn't gotten to dig into that world. And we spent a good, 35 minutes of the opening series, of the movie there. So I thought that was really cool because I was like, and that's where as I was watching that, I go, this is going to be different. I didn't know whether it was different in a good way or a bad way. This is not going to be your typical Superman movie. And it got me excited in the midst of watching that. Because at the time, Henry Cavill was still, relatively not a known person.
Not at all. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was just in that, not a 300, but like a 300 style movie, Roman Gladiator style. I forget what it is. Someone in the chat, the movie where he was, the people were like, oh, that's it. And so he was relatively unknown at that time. And I remember like, okay, what are we going to see with that? And it was an impressive movie. And so like, those were my initial thoughts going into it, stepping out. Like, I was like, wow, I like this take and I like where they're going with it.
What about you, Ryan?
For me, like, there's two controversies in this movie, right? People have issues with the Paul Kent scene and then the snapping the neck at the end. Those are kind of the two main controversies. I have developed a defense for the the neck snapping, like I can defend that. The Paul Kent scene still doesn't sit well with me, but overall, this is honestly my favorite of like the Superman trilogy, I guess, of these three that are closely connected. I think this was the strongest one. So overall, I agree with what Bearded said though. Like the beginning, it's so like, it's the end of an epic, the Iliad when they return back to Greece and stuff, and Krypton is falling around Russell Crowe and Michael Shannon as they deliver like these epic lines. The dialogue's great there. It's very theatrical in the way they deliver and set that up, and it feels like an epic right out of the gate. So I thought it was an interesting take on Superman, but it's definitely not the Superman we know.
That's a really good way to say it, and I think Greg mentioned something of the same as far as an update, or at least an evolution to the Superman mythos in a lot of ways. I will say, to this day, I think it still has one of the all-time best DC trailers. Like, I love the original trailer for this movie. I love the iconography, the way they capture the imagery of it. The photography is just phenomenal. I like the casting of Costner. I think Costner's really great as that all-American dad. Like, he really nails it. I like Russell Crowe well enough. I think he's all right. Michael Shannon is phenomenal. He's great as Zod. I think Michael Shannon is spot on. I do have problems with the two elements that you mentioned, Ryan, the neck snap and the paw Kent. The paw Kent does sit way worse with me. I think it makes less sense almost the more I watch it. It almost bothers me more like a splinter that's digging deeper or something. Like, it just irks me a little bit. And for me, it's one of the pieces about it, and the same with the neck snap, is it's bad writing. Like, they wrote themselves into those corners on purpose. They wanted to get into those traps. They could have written an ending and a story where it wasn't about him being pushed to a place where he killed Zod, but they wanted to write him into a place where he killed Zod, meaning they wanted to question the main idea of the character in some ways. And they wanted Pa Kent to die a different way. They wanted him to stand for hiding himself from humanity. And so that was kind of the point. They wrote themselves into those corners intentionally. And it just irks me as like just poor writing decisions that could have been written a different way. I think they could have had a lot of the same story done in a better way and avoided those. Do they ruin the movie? No. I think the movie is probably an 8 out of 10 for me. I think it's one of the better movies in the whole Snyder era. I think it's one of their better films. Henry Cavill is perfect. Amy Adams, I could take or leave that one. But I think Henry Cavill is perfect, and he does some great work in this movie in particular.
Yep. Let me ask this though. And I'm not doing this because I'm with you on the Paul Kent scene. Of like, I'm there with you. Let me ask you though, if you said that it's poor writing because they wrote himself in the corners, but I almost wonder we're coming off of Superman Returns, which we talked about last time, 5 years before this or something like that.
Yeah, like right before it. Yeah.
But it was a dud. They tried to go in the vein of Christopher Reeves. It just didn't work, right? So they knew they had to switch it up a little bit. And DC was in the midst of trying to go through a more realistic, like real world take of DC.
Right.
And the idea for me that I kind of go of is, are they trying to put the emphasis on Paul Kent of like going, no, you saying hidden is more important than even my own life from that aspect, even though you could like, even though he could say hidden and he could do it if you're putting it in that he can race Flash and beat Flash, like, come on, you can do that. But I think I want to say, like, are they doing it to the uninitiated comic book fans to show that kind of like corner that they're painting themselves into? Because let's be honest, if Superman really existed in our world, he wouldn't be how the comic books, we wouldn't react to him the way the comic books portray him, in my mind. I mean, we would react more of how they had people react here of like, totally. The government's going to be trying to go onto him. That Paul Kent knows that, that, if Bruce Wayne, and we'll get to that stuff later, but that buildup like is there because if he really is trying to defend Earth, like, the dude can wipe us out like that if he wants.
Oh, for
to.
sure.
So
yeah, I've seen The Boys,
and like, but like the idea though, I think of like, are they trying to overemphasize the importance of like, no, you really do need to stay and not pull a Bendis here and keep your identity secret, so like the government can't find you in. Because of that, because he absolutely could. So I wonder if I'll let Ryan talk about the neck snapping and stuff because he has a theory, but are they putting more of that interest in there of that we would not laud Superman the way we do in the comic books and like, so whenever someone goes, they don't understand Superman, they don't write him that way, like in the movies, I'm like, well, yeah, but they're probably writing it more of a realistic take than a lot of this comic books from that aspect, because we wouldn't be like praising this person. We'd be scared of our minds peeing our pants of like, what's he going to do to us? So
at least as they show us like divided as a nation.
Whether the execution was there, I wonder if at least the Paul Kent scene and those were more put there to emphasize that this is a Superman that like we want us to have a little skepticism and fear because of what the government would do if they know.
Sure.
So again, I don't love that scene either. I'm like, no, like if you're gonna have him raise Flash at the end of Justice League movie, like he can save his dad without being seen.
Well, I'm not going to try to defend that scene either because I fundamentally disagree with it. But in the movie, the logic we're given is that Paul Kent didn't believe that the world was ready.
Right.
He wasn't hiding Clark's identity. He was hiding Superman's identity, hiding Superman from the world because, like you said, Bearded, we don't know how the government would react. And so that's supposed to be the logic there, is that the world wasn't ready. So still, I feel like that was a failure of a scene. As far as the neck snapping, like the one thing I think is interesting about that is like, to me, Superman, his biggest fear is himself. He knows if he loses control, what the devastation could be to Earth, you know? And so I think like, because this is a young, new Superman, him going too far and losing control is kind of like that reality check of like, are you sure you have this under control? Are you sure you're safe for humanity in general? Because, you know, this was you losing control, but what if somebody could control you, you know? And so that kind of instills that fear in a young, untested Superman that like, you know, if I lose control, that could be the end of this world in general, you know? So that's basically my defense of that scene, is that's the only way I can get okay with it, is that it instills a fear in him at a very young age.
Yeah, and I think those are clearly elements Snyder wanted us to deal with. And I respect the concepts of the reality of like hiding your identity and the reality of, you know, being new to this and trying to be representative of what your beliefs are, but also stop somebody that's clearly beyond. I mean, obviously the second Superman movie of Christopher Reeve, they didn't know how to get him away to get rid of Zod either. They just threw him down a hole. Like that was their whole thing. Like they just said, hey, there's a hole down there. Let's just throw him in there. We'll never worry about it again. So I get it. It's a tough corner to write out of. So I totally understand it. Several people in the chat also mentioned this concept, and I think it was, let's see, where's D? There's D-Wrong talking about the mass destruction of Metropolis. And I will say this is a Snyder trait anyways, which is that like he loves the big spectacle. And if you watch these movies, I don't know how there's any corner of Metropolis still standing at this point. Like every movie seems to like tear another section of that city to shreds. I do think he he goes a little overboard into Michael Bay territory where he's like, let's just blow up another building. Let's just trash another corner here. Let's just do that. It gets excessive is basically what I'm saying. And I would have liked it to just like, he had it at 11. Like we could come, it would have been a perfectly good movie at an 8. And we still would have been like, wow, they really messed up that city. I don't know that it needed to be at an 11. That's just me.
Yeah. I do think though, the issue that you have with that though is, you almost, it's Superman. Like, how else do you portray Superman and someone that can go toe to toe with Superman fighting? Like, I mean, Superman's not going to be like, hey, listen, Zod, can we just, they at least got Doomsday in the next movie over. Like, they're not going to be like, hey, Zod, listen, like, let's move this over here. Like, Metropolis is, I mean, these are godlike creatures that are going, it's the same concept of Marvel, though. You're always going to have that issue. DC's characters are all gods, basically,
right.
And Marvel's characters aren't. And Marvel has to find a way to nerf, as someone uses the term nerf, like Captain Marvel. We forget that she's even in the movie till the end of Endgame. And it's like, oh, because she could end this like that with the snap of her finger. And that's why they haven't introduced, I feel like, a lot of their gods. And so I get the destruction thing. Like, yes, but I mean, how, like, they're gonna fight if this is where Superman is.
I'm not saying it shouldn't have happened. I'm saying it didn't need to be excessive. Is what I felt. I felt like it got to the point where it was just like eye candy Transformers crap. Where it's like, let's just blow up another building. Let's just blow up. Let's just take out like 7 to 10 more. No. It's that movie. It's that moment when Gyllenhaal's like, double the damage. Let's do it again and let's double the damage. I think we could have been fine. Like we were good. The city got messed up.
That's nitpicky to me.
It's excessive. Like it basically seems like Superman's like just like, let's just trash this joint. Like, he's not doing enough to like move this to like just punch him towards the ocean. Keep working him towards the ocean. Like let's get Aquaman involved.
Working him towards the ocean.
Right.
I will say, like, the one thing is, and I'm sure you guys were like
exactly D-Runk's hitting on the head there. Yeah, but yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys never really got caught in that trap, but Dragon Ball Z, like rewatching Man of Steel, I was like, holy cow, like this is the perfect Dragon Ball Z movie because that's exactly how all the fighting is. Like it's the same level of destruction. Like they nailed it, the Superman that he comes to Earth and finds out he's an alien and there's all this stuff he taps into. Like that's Goku, that's Dragon Ball Z. Like Man of Steel is like a perfect Dragon Ball Z live action movie. And we wouldn't complain about the level of destruction if it was that, but because it's Superman, it's weird to watch. It really is. Because like you said, it's excessive. It gets too far.
And I totally understand what McD is saying. And it's kind of what Greg is saying, that like it happens in all comic book movies. But I feel like there's a lack of repercussions in these movies. Like it's not like later on you deal with a government agency trying to shut them down. It seems like in general, and we'll get right on to the next movie if you want to look at the repercussions, because the next movie is about the repercussions. It seems like the repercussions happen more in other eras, but not in this DC era as much. But I
mean, you're right though. But I think they over the top. Say what you will about his movies, they're going over the top because that's a setup. Zack Snyder at least has stuff. Whether you like it or not, he has a vision of where he wants to take this stuff. And I think he had the vision of what he was going to do with Batman, Superman. And so to set up the repercussions, I mean, DC did have that, one season TV show on NBC of the cleanup task force that
really
Vanessa Hudgenson was in it, and Alan Tudyk like creating different gadgets for the citizens to protect themselves from superhero stuff. So
I'm just saying, I think if it had demonstrated Superman making an effort more, it seemed like it was less about that and more just about watching two guys pound the crap out of each other and knock down buildings. Like it was not about Superman trying to protect people.
CGI slugfest.
That really didn't come up much. And I was looking for it specifically on this latest rewatch to see like how often does it seem like he's worrying about people and how much is he just like, let's just blow some more crap up. So let's see. The destruction of Metropolis and scenes are straight out of Alan Moore's Miracle Man. Oh, look at you getting deep on a score. Always getting deep.
Decimation of London.
Batman. Yeah, let's get into it, Greg, because here we are. Or, George, let's get into it because here we are, Batman versus Superman. What are your thoughts on that one, Greg?
I remember this was I was excited for this one. You guys know me. I am a Batman fan through and through. And so ever since I found out Batman vs. Superman was coming, I was there, ready to see that fight. And I remember we had a group, we went IMAX. And I remember walking out of the theater and I was going, I didn't love it. I feel like I should have loved it. But I also was conflicted of like, I didn't hate it. Like I thoroughly enjoy it. And it's one that I actually do go back and watch still often. And I've been trying to watch these with a different filter a little bit because I know I have a bias that I don't hate a lot of the DCEU movies. There are definitely flaws in this movie overall. Absolutely agree. But good golly, the kid inside of me getting to watch Batman and Superman on a big screen, freaking IMAX, which apparently Justice League Snyder Cut would be a lot better on an IMAX and not my widescreen TV at my house, but we'll talk about that later in 30 minutes. But like that, I was there for it. I don't care if the writing to get to that story was as bad as much as I got to see that on the screen. And I was like, yes.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan? What are your thoughts?
I mean, visually, I think BVS is beautiful. I mean, not saying anything in Man of Steel is not good because it's actually aged really well, but BVS like delivered the visuals that we've all imagined for years and years and years. You know, Batman with the metal mask and the blue eyes and the light. It was there. It delivered on that front. Story-wise, it is a complete disaster. Zack Snyder clearly... Like, there's two major, like, real-world things that happened around all of this between Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman. First, Man of Steel came out, and it got a lot of crap for destroying everything and just not caring. And the other thing that happened was they announced Civil War, and we're going to put our superheroes against each other. And Warner Brothers was like, oh, man, we got to have a superhero fight, too. What are we going to do? And whenever you watch Batman versus Superman, you can literally watch it as Man of Steel 2 and just cover your eyes every time Batman's on screen because he's in a parallel movie. Like, he's not even in that movie. They're in separate worlds. And it feels like Snyder, like, had this idea for Man of Steel 2 to be, you know, setting up Lex Luthor and Superman versus Lex, the man that wants to be a god versus the god that wants to be a man. You know, like, that movie is there. And then there's all this stuff about the destruction and how much it upset Bruce Wayne. And so now Batman's going to come back. And Lex Luthor, like, Batman's supposed to be the smartest man on the planet, right? With infinite prep time, right? Everything in that movie is handed him to Lex Luthor because Lex is always 2 steps ahead of him. And so, like, it kind of, to me, like, it's really sad that Batman was there. Bruce Wayne could have showed up at the end in a Nick Fury style stinger and been holding a couple of folders like, hey, look, we got to put together a team. I found some other superheroes around the planet. I'm going to put them together. And then you go into Justice League, which is essentially a soft reboot of everything anyway.
Yeah, but there's definitely some truth to that as well.
So you liked it. What you're saying, you loved Batman vs. Superman. That's what I heard you.
Him?
I really like Man of Steel too. It was great.
Sorry. So McBee's laying some points about feeling that when Captain America kills somebody or whatever, that it's not as big a deal. I will say just to that point, basically, Superman and Batman have been for a very long time presented as we don't kill people. In the comics, that's kind of been their shtick. It's been that way for a very long time. Whereas Cap has always been a war character, and his early appearances, he was killing soldiers left and right. As far as I've read Captain America, it's never been a I don't kill people kind of thing. So for me, it's just the issue isn't like, oh, I don't want people dying in comic book movies. It's more, is that true to the characters? Like Black Widow's been a straight up killer. Like I'm not surprised to see Black Widow pull out 2 guns and cap a few people. But when I see in this movie Bruce Wayne pull out a machine gun and start mowing guys down, that does take me back a little bit. Like, well, that's not I mean, are we doing Golden Age Batman now? Are we going like full Golden? Is he gonna hang some guy and fly him over Gotham as like a sign to the criminals, like I hang people now? So for me, it's less about murder in general, more about the character. And as I've always known Batman and Superman, they don't kill people, and Captain America more so has been known to do that. But that's that one murder death kind of thing. For me, that does not what ruins Batman versus Superman. Batman versus Superman is ruined by 800 things being shoved into a movie that don't need to go there. The second it got to Doomsday, I'm like, okay, this movie is stupid. Like, why are we throwing Doomsday in this movie now? Like, how many things needed to be in this movie? Like, at some point, it was like I lost track. We shot Jimmy Olsen in the first like 10 minutes, and like I don't know where this movie's going now. This movie's off the walls. So it's a little bit, for me, it's just like I didn't need the amount of comic book plots being shoved in here. Mm-hmm. I love the opening bit, and I can't remember who said the opening bit. Where is it? Todd Christian. The opening moments, great callback to the first film. It's easily the best acting that Ben Affleck does in any of these movies. Like, he nails that sequence. It's really well handled. This movie just has too much. I don't need Holly Hunter and the whole like plot line there. Like, I just feel like there's way too much in this movie. And I think it slows it down in some spots. It feels like they're just trying to force the plot to go places that it wouldn't naturally want to go. Specifically, I still don't buy that Bruce Wayne would go fully to I'm going to kill this guy, and then all the way back to I'm not going to kill this guy. That boomerang, that I get whiplash from.
Yeah,
that
it's a real hard
transition.
turn. Yeah.
I don't fully believe he would go all the way to this guy needs to die. I don't buy it. It's too extreme. And I don't believe he's going to, once he's there, I don't believe he boomerangs all the way back to the place where he is in Justice League, where he's like, I love this guy and we got to bring him back to life. This guy's my hero. He's my idol. I hold him up and he is everything this world needs now. Don't you understand? Like that boomerang is intense. Like, I get whiplash from it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but John, have you ever been driving in your car? Someone's cut you off, and you've been driving behind them the whole time, just cursing and you, blah, 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 and then they pull into a place that you're pulling into, and it's like your best friend, and you're like, "Oh, hey, my bad. That was I cut you off. Like, that was my bad. Like, that's just what happened in this movie."
That's the best analogy for Batman versus Superman I've ever heard.
Oh my God, I live in Houston where the traffic's terrible, so yes, I can relate to that analogy.
Right? And then it was your best friend that cut you off, and you're like, oh wait, no, shoot, that was my bad. Like
what are you doing on this side, man?
once you get face to face from someone, once you take out the social media or the car, man, we're real people. And we're like, oh, Martha, your mom's name is Martha.
Oh, Martha,
cool.
You live on Martha Street too.
I just wish my mom was Martha so I could be friends with Batman and Superman. Jerks.
Oh man,
I do agree with John there, though. I think it is a bit extreme to go like, I want to kill this guy. I mean, the whole joke is prep time, right? So to me, it would make sense that Batman wants to get the kryptonite, that he wants to be prepared in case he ever does need to show down with,
I could definitely see him preparing. Yeah. I could fully get that.
But to instigate the fight, that's a step too far for a Batman, in my opinion.
And the Lex Luthor that they created for this series doesn't seem capable of fooling these two gentlemen. To me, like, that's the whole plot. The plot hinges on a Lex Luthor so talented that he can pull this off. And I don't buy it because Jesse Eisenberg's not very good in this role, and the script's not really written well for him. And so as a result, I don't buy it. And that's kind of important for this plot to work.
And I think it gets down to execution, because you said you had difficult buying into that Batman would go full killing. Well, we've been trained for how many years of reading Batman books that he doesn't kill. So why is he going to kill Superman? So I feel like that is why there was an important part that they did throw in aspects of that in this version of Batman, that he's got to be okay killing thugs, because otherwise, how is he going to be okay killing Superman, who is, whether he thought he was a hero or not, like, is raised in this universe as hero. So I feel like they had to write that Batman into that role to get to the point where they wanted to take him. Now, whether the execution was there, that's a different story. But I get the motive behind why they were doing it.
I hadn't heard this theory that this was actually Lex Luthor's son that Jesse Eisenberg is playing and not Lex Luthor. I hadn't heard that theory. And that's what
I like Jesse Eisenberg, but his version of Lex is absolutely atrocious. I don't know why they put that to screen. And I know we'll probably end up circling around, but BVS is the movie where a lot of the diehards start to turn into this. Well, when you have full context, when you see everything, and I've seen everything, and a lot of these loose things just don't work for me. Like the nightmare stuff, it doesn't make more sense now that we got to Justice League. It just shouldn't have been there in the first place. The stuff with Lex Luthor, like he's going to be a really great villain after he comes out of prison. Well, now we've seen it, and I still wasn't impressed. So, this is the movie where it starts with this anticipation of what was to come beyond this. And I still feel like it didn't deliver on a lot of those things.
Well, and I think to go to that point, and this is where John has this point is made up, and I'm sure Ryan, you'll talk about, and I agree with it a lot of, this is where we start to see where DC, they have a good vision, I think, with where they want to take the character, but they miss the mark sometimes on casting, and they've missed the mark a lot. And I love the idea of the eccentric entrepreneur, the social media guru type kind of mogul that they wanted to have play this is a different take of Lex Luthor. And I felt like Warner Brothers is like, hey, Jesse Eisenberg played Mark Zuckerberg in Social Network. He can
totally see that.
You guys are wanting to do,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And it was just a miscast. I love the role of Lex in here and the different take, but I will be the first that I do not like this interpretation of him, like, because the execution, again, I go back to the execution a lot. The execution in his role just didn't pan out, and I think that was a miss of casting. And because I love the writing of that character, but I didn't like how Jesse Eisenberg played it, and I felt like they really just were like.
Do you think another actor could have legitimately ironed all that out? Because I feel like it's in the writing too. I don't necessarily feel like it just would have been like presto changeo if Ryan Gosling was in there. Or whatever.
Yeah, that's a hard game to play. I mean, I tried to play it with.
I was gonna say, shout out to Bearded, who's got a new show that's really entertaining. Who would you cast? Like, that's a really fun idea. And I personally would hold on to Cavill and not Godot, but we'll deal with that later.
We'll talk about that later. But I think there are people that could play that role. I think
I guess my question, would it iron out the problems? Because I feel like they're in the script, not just in the performance.
Yeah, I'm actually with Bearded on this one. I think there is a good character in there. I think it would take a different and maybe even better actor to pull it out. And I mean, I think his answer is kind of the same too. Like, I don't know if they could actually save the character, but I think it would have been better to try than keep with Eisenberg. That was rough.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I don't know. I would have to see it to see if somebody could actually save it.
D-Runk says the score is great. I will say that the score in this film is very solid, and I really loved the music in the first film. And when those first few notes of let's get into Gal, because those first few notes of Wonder Woman's theme when she rolls in, that's the only time in all three of the Superman movies that I watched with my girls where they actually jumped off the couch and got excited when they heard that theme and they saw her, because they loved the first Wonder Woman movie. They saw that and they just jumped out of their chair. Like, yes, that's the freaking movie I wanted. I've been waiting for this movie to start. Was their reaction when that moment occurred? It was like, finally, the movie I've been waiting for started.
Yeah.
I just read D-Runk's comment. I mean, Jimmy Olsen didn't matter in this movie, so I don't care. But like, if they actually had a realistic,
just give him one scene and cap him, and he's done.
If they give a realistic character of Jimmy Olsen, I would have hated that still as Jesse.
No, you just give him the one scene, pop a cap in him, and if you want to do a throwback movie later on when he's a spy, Jimmy Olsen spy, like
it is funny rewatching this movie. I pulled a chaos. I'm watching Batman vs Superman, and I'm going, wait, there's issues that are messed up on Batman versus Superman, but I'm excited to see what Zach gets to do when he gets to see his full vision here, and we get to see his actual vision for this. I forgot, it's Justice League that he did that too. I was watching Batman versus Superman. I go, I wonder what scenes he's going to take out of here and put in here to get his. I was like, oh dang it, shoot!
And I will say, I have watched the extended version that's on HBO. You can see the extended, and it's. For me, it's just not a whole lot better. Like it's the same. For me, it's still the same. Suffers from all the same problems. So I don't know that I feel like it's a ton better or worse. They're on par for me.
Yeah, foreshadowing again. I feel the same way about Justice League. Like the full entire version is slightly better because now I have all the context, but it's also clearer how many things went wrong because I have the full context. So. There's slight improvements, but they don't solve the problem at hand.
Well, let's get into the one that I think TJ is going to be the most upset about. We're talking Suicide Squad. What? Will Smith is here, guys. He's going to save the DC universe. No, not so much. Okay, where are you on this one, Bearded?
I don't hate it.
Jesus Christ. Sorry,
I don't take a drink. Here's the deal. I don't love it, but good golly, I feel like in the comic book world here, there is an unnecessary of Suicide Squad is not Marvel. It's not a Marvel type movie.
Sure.
Like I feel like there is just this unnecessary pressure to have every single movie be to the caliber of kind of what some of the MCU is, and because we're spoiled. I appreciate it for what it is. It was a fun popcorn flick movie to me. It loses it at certain parts, and we'll talk about it. But I enjoy rewatching it to an extent, and then I can kind of tap out towards the end. But it just gets the extended cut is better. I just feel like because you get the Joker roles a lot better too in that, and we can talk about that later too. But I just don't hate it as much as everyone else loves to just like on Suicide Squad. So, and I'll defend it here in a little bit once Ryan and John, you guys have crapped all over it. So
sure. I want to shout out PJ King because he's basically saying what I'm going to say in a couple of seconds. But yeah, there it is, PJ. You are spot
on. Man, see, for me, Suicide Squad, I don't know. I was pretty hyped for Batman versus Superman, and then just like to go to the theater and be completely disappointed. But there was something special about Suicide Squad, and so it's really hard for me to separate like the real life hype that was going on. Like the trailers were so good for Suicide Squad, and that had me really energized. And there was a lot going into it. It was one of the early Snyderverse kind of movies, so it was exciting to see how other people were going to start handling this universe and stuff. There was a lot that went into that, and it was a complete disappointment compared to what I was expecting. So for me, like, this is a movie I do not enjoy because a lot of the outside things really get in my head. I'm just like, oh yeah, why'd they do this? They did this because of like political reasons or drama or whatever else, And so for me, this is actually a really hard movie to rewatch because I just always feel bad about it because of all of what I remember going into it.
Sure. I wanted to shout out Comic Geek McD as well with a comment that I think I really wanted to hit on this idea. McD, I fully agree with this. And I think we're in a weird era where people feel like a movie has either got to be great or it's just crap. And it's, I've heard way too many people already saying the Snyder Cut's the greatest movie they've ever seen in their life. And it makes me like, dude, you got to watch more movies. You got to watch more movies. You got to watch more movies is like my only answer to that. There are a lot of good movies out there. You just got to watch more. And people who say it's the worst movie ever made also got to watch more movies. Like just watch. There are worse, and we're kind of talking about it right now. So for me, like a movie doesn't need to be Lawrence of Arabia for me to enjoy it, right? I can watch Dark Man, which is legitimately it's just a B movie, but it's a fun, crappy B movie. Like I can enjoy it. And the problem for me was I couldn't enjoy this. There were so many moments that were just stupid to me and like random, and character designs that I thought were just ugly and bizarre and just useless. And then, yeah, I fully am not a Leto Joker fan, but I'm also just in general not a huge Joker fan. I think he is overused. I'm also not a Harley fan. And these movies, this one and The Birds of Prey, capture, in my opinion, the worst iteration of Harley. And I don't like the like, the short shorts. I'm a sex object, but I'm not a sex object. I'm like tough and on my own, but I'm also completely beholden to this man. I'm an amazing doctor, but I'm also a complete mess. Like the worst parts of that character are like put forth for me, and it just irks me.
It's a very actions and words kind of thing for her. She says I'm an independent woman, but her actions really don't indicate that.
They definitely pulled her portrayal out of the Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Connor's kind of series. I feel like more of that comedic.
Great comment. I do love Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. Yes. Like she's a great piece of casting. Like
that's some of the best casting in all of the DC universe.
Spot on. So those are my issues. I just the film is just a bit of a chaotic mess. And yes, the trailer was phenomenal. I just wanted them to make that movie. They just didn't make that movie.
Yo, say what you will though. Like I have friends who are like, dang it, I am not going to be tricked by DC in a trailer again. And then the next time is, oh, I'm a hype for this movie. I'm tricked again.
Every time.
Because they do. You rewatch the first trailer of Suicide Squad and you go, yeah, but this is going to be a departure from Zack Snyder. And you go, all right, I'm here for it. And then you get burned on Suicide Squad. And then you see like Wonder Woman and it was, good. And you're like, oh, and then you see Aquaman trailer. You're like, the trailer is dope. Like, I'm here for it. And it just is like, they can cut it. Whoever cuts their trailers
pull the rug out.
Needs to just direct all their movies.
Yeah. Right. The advertising people need to get over onto the other side. I will say part of it is too, they hire really great visual filmmakers. So that's a huge praise to the production side. I think James Wan, who did Aquaman, has a great visual style. And I think that in general, they hire filmmakers who capture beautiful images, or at least compelling images. The problem is they don't hire as quality writers. And that's where I get irked and frustrated.
Yeah. Well, and, a big part of the problem with Suicide Squad was they were like, here's a dump truck of money. Here's a bunch of great actors that we've already locked into deals that are going to have to do whatever you say. Go start filming a movie and we'll get a writer on set to like start putting some story together. And they filmed for 2 weeks with like Jared Leto just being like, well, I want a scene of my Joker doing this thing. And they're just like filming all this stuff. And then 2 weeks later, they finally get the first draft of the script. And so then they're trying to piece a movie together. And that's the part that really drives me crazy about all the people doing the air cut thing now. Like, there's not a good movie there. They literally were just filming stuff for weeks at a time. There's not going to be an air cut that's better than what you got. Like, that's it. It's done, Like,
love it. It's hilarious.
It's so good because I messaged that to John tonight in our private chat, and then I just posted it here in the chat.
Yeah, not happening.
No, I don't.
Let's get to a really good one for me. How about that? Because honestly, this has been. Yeah, right. You need to leave. I think Wonder Woman is probably my favorite of all the Snyder-era films. I think it does a really good job. It's not without flaws. There are definitely flaws in the finale. I love all the battle sequences. Gal Gadot is really just phenomenal in this part. I know some people that don't like her. I know Issues in the chat's going to say a few things about Gal.
We aren't going to highlight anything he says about Gal.
Probably not. But I think she's really great. I love Chris Pine. I think Chris Pine has a great quality to what he does in this movie as far as balancing her out. I think this is also one of the few ones that actually does a pretty good job balancing the comedy and the action. Like some of these other movies struggle with that, like finding the tone. And I think this movie really does a really stellar job with it. So that, yeah, I'm going to speak first on this one because this one's top of the list for me. Greg,
gang, I adore Gal Gadot. So she is Wonder Woman to me.
She's right here. Notice we can see her right there, and she's right there. She's right here on both sides,
and she's also right here in my heart. Here's the deal. Like, this is where DC, I feel like, again, I thought they nailed the casting correctly this time with this. Like you said, Gal, Chris Pine, those two, they carry the movie, and the side characters were fine. They weren't bad, they weren't great, like, but they were, and that's what they needed to be. For me to tell like how much I like this movie says a lot about it, because I struggle liking period piece movies. I really struggle. Like, I'm just not the biggest like that era of a fan of those style of movies. So like Captain America was tough for that.
I'm not going to highlight it, but I love you, Unruly Simeon. I love you.
So that says a lot. I agree with what I've seen in the chat. There are issues at the end of the movie, but it by all means does not affect my love for the casting or of the overarching movie. They're minimal at the best. I mean, sheesh, if I can look past some of the flaws I do in Batman vs Superman to like it, and even Suicide Squad, I'm okay. I'm not going to die on a hill on some of these flaws.
Right. And what about you, Ryan? How do you feel on this one?
Honestly, like, this is honestly, like, Wonder Woman's probably the one I'm least familiar with out of all of the movies, I think, other than the ones I haven't seen. But I really liked it. I thought the third act, like, it falls flat. It's not necessarily like awful in my opinion, but based on how good the first two acts are, like, it's definitely a letdown of an ending. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, I've never really cared for Wonder Woman, and Daniel Warren Johnson made me feel something for her, and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman makes me really like that character. And without those two pieces, I don't think I would really care at all if Wonder Woman existed. So that says a lot for what Gal Gadot does for that character.
Absolutely.
And what Patty Jenkins did in that first movie, it's so solid. Like, she did some amazing work there.
Yeah, I agree. I think Patty Jenkins deserves a lot of the credit as well. Because again, she can photograph things beautifully, but can you tell an interesting story and put it together to make something more valuable? And I think she did on this one.
Yeah, I think like Donner and Reeves and like Donner and Reeves and Jenkins and Godot, like, those are powerhouse duos as far as superhero movies go. Like, they know what they're doing there.
Yeah, totally. And Nolan, right?
Oh yeah.
So that was a pretty easy breezy one, but we're going to save, the next movie should be Whedon, but we're going to save that to the end when we get into the Justice League. Instead, we're going to go right to some Momoa, which I know that TJ was saying we can have Gal. He wants Momoa, which I respect that.
Hey, TJ, don't worry. The Bearded Clan gets Momoa too.
What? That's phenomenal.
What?
Yeah, Greg, go ahead, kick us off here, man.
This was the first movie where I think DC, take away Justice League, where DC really tried to change their tone of their movies more. I think they realized after Batman, after Justice League, people aren't vibing the darker themed. And so they started to try to, Jason Momoa's character is different in Justice League than he is in Aquaman. They made him more humorous, and I mean, his few humor lines in Justice League were because of the lasso of truth and things like that. Like, so they took like the elements of Jason Momoa and made him funny. I will say this: I love the casting of most of this movie. I think who they have as Ocean Master was great. I loved Vulcan.
Willem Dafoe.
I like, and Momoa. there are other ones I don't care about as much, but I really enjoyed the tone of this movie. I thought it was an epic of a underwater movie. There are elements that people say, what about this? Yeah, it doesn't work, or something doesn't work. Sure. But I thought it was just a fun movie for me. Again, I thoroughly enjoyed watching Aquaman. I like Momoa, and I know we'll talk about casting here in a little bit with some people, but I thought, where's the part where I was going to go with boom, 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 boom. Anyways, I don't know, but the underwater battle scenes, I thought were just really enjoyable. And what's his name? James Wan.
He's the director. Yeah.
Yeah. What he did and whatever they decided to change from Justice League to Aquaman about dialogue under the water was top notch in this, because it was doo-doo in Justice League. So I enjoyed it. It's up there as one movie that I thoroughly enjoyed from the DCEU, probably more than the others.
I want to highlight a bunch of comments because there's a ton of really great things going on in the chat from people that like Todd Christian, didn't like this movie at all, doesn't like the character, doesn't like any of the, loves the character, doesn't like what they did with it. McD saying loves it, it's a great movie, loves Mira, and he's not even a fan of that actress. George saying Aquaman should have come before Justice League, because otherwise, why isn't Superman helping out save the world? Makes good sense. PJ saying Aquaman, great visuals, but tried too much to maybe copy the Marvel formula and do a Lion King, which obviously Lion King might have done better. Stay Puft saying Aquaman was good, but after the Snyder Cut is kind of ruined. Unruly loves the casting of Momoa. I think that's a casting that I think people are hot or cold on. It doesn't seem to be any kind of middle ground on that one, which is perfect for the Bearded Comic Bros new show if you haven't checked it out. All right, Ryan, what are your thoughts on Aquaman?
Aquaman, I actually haven't seen this one, so I don't have much of an opinion. I will say,
like, look forward to.
Yeah, I got kind of burnt out on like all the DC stuff, and so whenever it came out, it just like wasn't even on my radar. And now I am actually a little excited, because after seeing, the full Justice League and seeing how they did the underwater stuff and all that, and hearing that they fixed that issue in Aquaman, that makes me a little more interested to see. The other thing, James Wan is the one that came along and did Tokyo Drift, right?
Yeah, he did some Fast and the Furious, but he's also done some horror films. He's got like kind of an eclectic mix of films he's made.
You get that mix with what you see with him with the Trench, and that's why they wanted to go onto a full Trench movie, because they're like, we can make a horror Aquaman style movie without Aquaman with this character. But sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
No, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm vaguely familiar with some of Juan's work, and I like him, again, like visually. I think he does some interesting things. He does different things, so that really interests me just to watch this one now based on what I know was supposed to be, and see how different it all is.
Yeah, so he, just for people that don't know James Wan, he directed the original Saw movie. He did the original Insidious, The Conjuring, Insidious 2, Fast and the Furious 7, Conjuring 2, and Aquaman, and then a movie this year called Malignant, which I haven't heard of.
Wasn't he also responsible for Star Trek Beyond?
He produced and directed, produced and wrote other things, but I don't see him on Star Trek. No, I don't see him on that.
Oh, okay.
I think you're right. I thought he had writing credits. I don't think he directed it.
Producing, writing. Okay. Well, it's not listed here, but maybe he did.
Okay.
Yeah. But maybe he did. I don't know. So those are the big ones.
Justin Lin? I don't know. That's wrong. No.
So I just went to Wikipedia real quick because I wanted to refresh my memory. I will say one of the things I like about this movie is the visual palette of this film is different from all the other DC films. So you get something that feels unique, just like I think Wonder Woman felt unique and Man of Steel felt unique and Suicide Squad felt unique. I think these films all have a style, and I think that's kind of cool. I am not a fan of the casting of this movie in general. I feel like it's all just, I mean, Willem Dafoe is playing Willem Dafoe, and Patrick Wilson's chewing the scenery, and Amber Heard is just kind of cardboard, and I in general I feel like it's just kind of flat, but at the same time it doesn't ruin it. Like it's a legit popcorn B movie kind of thing. Like let's just go with it. Like it's not. I'm not looking for it. I can enjoy it as a Fast and the Furious, which I'm not looking at for like, ooh, this is going to be like a life-changing movie experience. No, this is just going to like, I'm going to see some cool stuff blow up. And, you know, everybody's going to look gorgeous and have like abs and look just amazing. And that's fine. Like that's what it is. There are moments that I love. And I think pretty much everything with Nicole Kidman and the actor who plays his dad, who's like the original Mandalorian, right? The original Boba Fett. Like, those two are great. And I almost wanted like a whole movie of them. Like, they're just really great. The moment at the end with them and the moment it's at the beginning really, really go really well. I like Black Manta. I think they did a great job with that costume. I think the action is really exciting. I think the look of the whole underwater world is really cool. And then of course, this is a great example of when a comic book suit and you look at it looks ridiculous. And you're like, they're going to really put him in an orange long sleeve shirt and green gloves and it's going to look cool. And you're like, heck yeah, it looks freaking amazing. Momoa in the suit at the end, he knows how to do the superhero pose. When he walks out of the waterfall with the trident and does the pose, I'm not even a huge Aquaman fan, but it's chef's kiss moment. Like, I'm down with that moment. So those moments are great. I know that Legion of Comics makes fun of me for the fact that, like, why does he sound like a surfer from Hawaii? Like, I have an issue with that. Like, just the logic of that. And I know they're like, well, we're just going to ignore it because we really like Jason Momoa and he's cool and he looks cool and we're just going to ignore it. That it's not like the character went to Hawaii or grew up in Hawaii or lived in Hawaii, but lived in New England, as far as we know, like his entire life. So I don't get the accent thing. Like, it just irks me a little bit. Like,
but isn't his dad Islander?
Right. But they're living in New England. Like, his teachers, his kindergarten teachers, and like everywhere he goes, he's not going to have like a totally different accent.
Yeah, but the justification that you can have for this, and I will just say this, that you could have this. I have a niece and nephew who are both born in London to English parents. My niece and nephew can turn on their accent off and on. Right. Because they grow up in a house with English parents.
Which would have been amazing if you give him like two scenes where he turns it on. If all we had
to give you was just one scene where he did a Boston accent, you would have been fine. Just one scene.
I'll give you the scene. He's in that pub getting drunk with the guys who want to take pictures with Aquaman. Those guys should have been full straight up Southies, like freaking Matt Damon, like straight Southies. And he should have rolled into it. And I would have been like, that's hilarious. He's got his mom's accent, his dad's accent, and his weight. Like, it makes sense. The logic of it just irks me a little bit.
It's the town sequel that we wanted.
Here's the thing that drives Perry crazy. Bullets bounce off this guy. How did they tattoo him?
Fair question.
Can anybody explain the tattoos? Because as far as I know, he never gets hurt until he meets an Atlantean weapon, and fights an Atlantean weapon. He is more tatted than anybody I know.
How does Wolverine, who has indestructible skin, get the claws?
How did he get circumcised? I don't know. These are the questions that we're waiting for answers on. So the tattoos thing, and then the thing.
Maybe there was like a weird time in college where he was like living in the South Pacific, and they used like some tribal mumbo jumbo to be able to tattoo him. And that's where he got the accent.
That's what it is.
Well,
he's
but
fake tats. That's what it is.
If Atlantean weapons can hurt him, if Atlantean weapons could hurt him, couldn't Atlantean tattoo shops they figure something out?
Yeah, Comic Head 84 has no accent. That's hilarious. You're hilarious.
I will say, because I've never seen Aquaman, like, you should have seen the shock on my face at like 3:30 in the morning when Willem Dafoe steps into an air bubble. I was like, wait, what's going on here? Like, this just got interesting.
And I will also say, like,
clue.
And this is more of a Justice League thing, because the moments when he like drinks the bottle of liquor and smashes it into the ocean and throws his shirt off and I'm like, wait, Aquaman litters now? Like, what the hell is going on with this guy now? Like that. These are the moments that, like,
Superman kills, Aquaman litters.
Aquaman litters. Like, who are these Justice League? This is Justice
League. The Flash walks.
Buck wild. They're just buck wild. They're just buck wild. Wolverine is not indestructible. He heals fast, right? So he has to get recircumcised every few days.
Sorry, D-Rongo.
That's the concern.
It's magic, you muggles. All right, let's keep going. Oh, that's a shame. Shazam! Let's where's that picture? Oh, there it is. Wow, there it is. Shazam, you guys. Which I'm going to speak on this one too, because this one ranks really high for me. Like my dad is a bigger Captain Marvel, shout out to the DC Captain Marvel fan, than I am. But I really enjoyed this movie. I thought the message was very different than your usual comic book movie. I thought the look and style of it was very, very different. I love me some Mark Strong. I think Mark Strong is good in pretty much everything. That guy was great casting. Jaimin Hunsu, great little cameo, digging it. The movie made me laugh, gets me emotional feels at different times, and I love the ending. This is a movie where I think the finale hits it for me, and it works. Like, I love the ending a ton, and I love the big fight sequence and the way it all pulls out the whole family. And then, of course, the Superman moment at the end is like tops. Like, it's like, yes, done. So for me, this movie hits on a lot of scales the way I like.
So I'll speak for Ryan. I still haven't seen this because I have been so burned on DC movies, so I haven't. But I love it.
Okay, good.
So, oh no, that was just me impersonating Ryan.
Oh, okay. I thought you.
I assume Ryan hasn't seen it because he's burned out on DC movies and whatever. I don't know why he's on our show right now, but.
Oh, Greg. Hey, you started as a guest on this show. Come on.
I know. And Ryan's John's bringing in guests to fill out my replacement. He's like, I'm gonna get him off here.
Just trying people out.
You can't make it this week. Oh, sorry. Ryan can fill in again.
The show must go on.
I thought this is what DC was trying to do with Aquaman and was able to make it happen with Shazam. They were trying to get that comedy that, like, we are going away from the dark tone. Although, dag nabbit, DC still throws in a couple dark scenes where I'm like, ooh, yeah, we are like, that's like a true departure from it.
There's unruly saying it right there. Boom.
Yeah. Oh, burp. Yeah. Like, it was like, ooh. But then as soon as that dark scene hits, Mark Strong in the elevator, it just brings it back to the tone that it was at. And I thought they hit that really well. Like you said, the end scene with the family is, I feel like that's been the most part of DC movies where I go, Wonder Woman, I felt like it didn't hit it at the end. Suicide Squad, I'm like, at the end. They're like, there's a lot of those big issues, like, where I'm just like, But I loved everything about that leading up. And like you said, it deals with a lot of storylines about, your family's not who you're necessarily born with. It's the family that you choose, and I think there are just some great tones. The kid actors in this movie, I think, do a really good job, and I think that is a testament to them, because there are a lot of movies where you utilize kids that it just doesn't work well because kid actors, it's either one way or the other. They're awesome or they're just annoying. Yeah. And there is that perfect balance of even the character of Freddy. And then who they choose as their counterparts. I'm like, I went in spoiler free, and I was like, oh. And I saw Freddy's character. That was perfect.
So good.
That was perfect casting. And so and like you said, Mark Strong is fantastic. And so anything that this is up there as one of my top DC EU movies as well. They basically are like, we're going to stay in the DCEU by acknowledging that these worlds exist, like with Superman's bullet and Aquaman, like Freddy always wears a different character t-shirt and stuff like that. And then bringing in Superman, but not even showing Superman's head. So they're like, we're going to say it exists, but we're really trying to say, like, we want to see what people think about this world now that we're creating in, and try to see where we want to take our franchises going forward. Sure. Because they really haven't had anything besides them Birds of Prey from that, and trying to, and then now we got some others. But
all right, Ryan, what do you think?
I didn't see this one in theaters. because I was in the burnout phase, but I did watch it at home.
Oh,
And I really like this one. I actually think it's the most modern styling of the DCEU movies. And honestly, when it came out, I think it was a little ahead of the curve because, like, currently, if you look at the movie scape and the TV scape, like, what we have is this weird, like, throwback to, like, 80s kids movies. They tend to be a little bit darker in certain moments, and they touch on real life issues. And we also see a big trend of, like, meta referencing. And I think that's something that made this movie really cool is that they were already like fans of the superheroes and they wanted to be like them. And that's something we hadn't really seen in a superhero movie yet. So I really like everything y'all said is accurate. Like this movie's a lot of fun. I feel like it does a great job of building from beginning to end. Like I see a lot of these movies and it's like, I really like the first act and the third act, or I like the first and second. This one, like literally the first act is good. The second act is better. The third act is the best. Like it just consistently builds into a movie I like more and more as I watch it. And I really like that kind of build, you know, I don't like all the ups and downs. I like for my comics and my movies need to get consistently better, not like all over the place. So this is a strong one. I think it's really good.
I love it. Everybody hitting on different things. And then TJ says, remember all the hate on the casting. You don't hear that now. This one, I don't remember hearing hate on the casting for this one, but maybe there was some. I think it was a smaller character, so maybe we just didn't have it as much that I didn't hear it. I don't know. Let's get on to the other movie they had in 2019, which was The Joker, which we kind of included here, even though I think for some people they consider Joaquin Phoenix's Joker to not necessarily be part of this era, but we didn't want to skip it because we're talking about all the DC films if we can do it. All right, Greg, where you at on The Joker?
I love it. I'm just going to say it straight up. I think it's not a DCEU movie, but it is a DC movie. But it's nothing that we've seen of DC in my mind. I love the it was a darker tone movie, but it didn't feel like it was a different darker tone than where DC was trying to take their movies. Like, it's weird to say there's levels of darkness, like,
sure, but
it was a different, or maybe the execution was a lot better. I mean, this is also one of those movies that reminds me to just wait and see what happens. I mean, when I heard the director of Old School was doing this movie, and I'm like, y'all, like really, like the guy who had Will Ferrell go streaking, like, is going to do a serious take on Joker.
Right.
So Joaquin Phoenix kills it. And I think, like, we talked about it on one show already, so I'm not going to belabor this point, but the fact that you have a one DC character who now has won awards twice for two different portrayals of said character is a reason DC is churning out Joker properties. Because I'm sorry, name any other movie that's won a major award that's a comic book movie. Well, if you're talking the top fives, you got one with best actor for one character. So DC's going to ride this horse to the death. I thought it was just a great take. I love De Niro's take in this movie with and just the process that Joaquin's going through the whole time. I love the little things of, like, where they talk about the garbage strike at the beginning of the movie, and as the movie progresses, you see the garbage just piling up across the streets of Gotham more and more. And, like, it's subtle things like that I was like, the attention to that detail really worked for me. And I think it is a great movie. And I know some people won't go back and watch it because it's dark and great. I rewatched it multiple times, and my parents were visiting, back right before all this COVID stuff hit. And I was like, Mom, you gotta watch Joker with me. Like, she's like, okay. Like, it's
my mom would never say yes to that.
Right.
I'm just telling you right now.
But, like, it just, like, I think it's great because I think it is just a great movie. And before I forget, good golly, DC, give me more Batman villain one-shot movies like this in this style. Give me a Riddler. Give me a Mr. Freeze. Give me a freaking, I don't care who it is. You can give me a Mad Hatter if you can pull it off in this and make it a Scarecrow. By golly, I have one of those books now too. Ooh. So, but I think they're awesome, and I would love it. So I can shut up now. So someone else.
Ryan, what do you think of sorry, I keep calling it the Joker. It's just Joker.
Yeah, I love this movie. I thought it was great. I think I was probably in the same place as Beer did. Like, I was not so much that I didn't believe in Todd Phillips, because I am a big fan of like these comedic people that are going into drama and just executing perfectly. But I had a lot of questions around like, how is this going to work? How is it going to be connected? Is it, is this going to work in general, And so I was a little hesitant to go in on it, but it delivered better than expected. I think it kind of shows, we just talked about Shazam, right? That movie's pretty unconnected to the DCEU. And then we see Joker, definitely not connected. It does really well. And then if you look at DC comic books, it's also their Black label that is doing the best, where it's disjointed from this continuity. And so I would almost like to see DC just like kind of lean into all the disjointed continuity in their movies and their comics and everything, and just tell some good stories, because that seems to be what they're doing with this kind of stuff. So I would like to see more of that, but
nice.
I don't know how I feel about more of Joker itself, though. I kind of feel like it's a one and done kind of deal.
Oh, I agree. I don't need, although I would say, man, it would be really cool. I would be okay if they did the right storyline of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in the asylum, of like playing the kind of side role of being in there with seasoned like characters, of seasoned villains that are in there, and kind of see that interaction and almost start to see how that manifests into it. Like, and give me more of a live action Arkham Asylum rather than Joker's Right Out. Like, if you give me the psychological aspect thriller of that, and we get to see like a more hardened already, like a Two-Face or a Riddler who's already there and established as a villain,
right?
And to see that kind of interaction to let the growth of Joker even more there as in a supervillain, I'd be for. But if they like let Joker out and then like has a gang from the people that he follows right off the bat, that's not a story I care about. Like, so it would have to take the very right story to do it. But I would much rather see more one shots like that of the other villains in that vein, for sure.
I'm just going to read a bunch of the chat comments because they're basically hitting it on the head here. Joker's an awesome movie in a category by itself. Let's see here. Not that one. Sorry. Didn't like Phoenix as the Joker, which is surprising since he's a great actor. Besides, it was an ugly film. Felt like the director wanted you to sympathize with the Joker. And I think definitely that's true. I think that is the point of the movie, is to let you understand how a Joker is created. I think is kind of the point. That there are definitely a lot of factors involved with something like that. That a Joker just doesn't happen by randomness. I think totally agree here. PJ, Joker gives Joaquin gives an amazing performance. The spiral, the downward spiral. I will say, I was frustrated by how much it felt like Taxi Driver. So in that way, I was a little like, okay, I felt like the movie was the trailer in this sense, like. There were no plot twists, no shocks, no surprises. Like, I knew exactly what this movie was going to be going in. So in that way, that was the main frustration with me, was like, this is a one-note movie. And the note is powerful and beautiful, but man, they just pound away on that note all over the movie. And at some point I'm like, it's an amazing concept that is like, after a while, I don't know that I need 2 hours of it. Like, it's just like, okay, I get it. Like, society is horrible and we're churning out horrible people and this is awful. And now we're done. Like, we're all screwed. Like, that's kind of it. So it was a little exhausting in that way. But the movie is amazing, really well handled. I'm not a Joker fan. I didn't need this movie. I didn't want to, like, I totally waited till this was streaming to watch it, because I just was like, I don't need this in my life. Like, I don't need. I was in Baltimore Comic-Con when this movie was in theaters, and a whole crew of people were like, let's go see this movie, and I'm like, hard pass. Like, I'm not going. Like, so for me, like, I'm glad that somebody spent the time, energy, and passion of this movie it's just not. I'm not the audience for it, so like I can respect it as being a beautiful piece of art and powerful and well made, but it's not for me. So I guess that's the simplicity of it.
Yeah. But I also think if more people were in your boat that's watched movies like Taxi Driver, Kings of Comedy, like some of those were that play. Now, I would attest 80% of the people who watch that movie haven't seen those types of movies, and so like that doesn't affect them as much. Now, I'm not saying our chat, because I know our chat has the people in our chat. I know our Gores and our TJs and them. They have seen those movies, so like our chat's different than the rest of the world. I want to let that know. So, like, I don't want people to hot. But I do think like that is a sentiment that I would understand. Like it felt like, okay, they're rehashing because De Niro's character tapped into that. Like that's
totally, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
So we're going slowly here. We got to get to some bigger ones here. So I'm going to jump to Birds of Prey, which I am happy to say is hot garbage. Like I'm fine telling people that this movie is awful. Like this might, for me, I mean, I put it right there next to Suicide Squad. I think it's just as much an incoherent mess for me. I was excited with the concept. I love Renee Montoya. I like the Black Mask. Like there was a bunch of stuff I was looking forward to, but I feel like they took those things, blended them up, and were like just throwing random crap on the screen that came together. So for me, I found this an incoherent mess, and I'm happy to put it at the bottom of this list.
Ryan, I assume you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, we can make this go pretty quick then. I didn't hate it. I liked it for what it was. I almost loved it. I liked it for what it was. Again, miscasting. I love the character of Renee Montoya. Nope. Cassandra Cain. Nope. The miscasting were off through and through with this. I did not like Victor Zaz's casting. Like, nope. Yeah. And I wish, I really did enjoy Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Black Mask because it was unique and different, and I liked it. It was eccentric. I get it. People don't, but I was there for it.
I half like it. I just feel like it just didn't click to the degree I wanted it to. It was halfway good. That's the best of the lot.
It was not. And they made it work for the movie that they were trying to do. So they pulled it away from that. I have a special spot for Birds of Prey, because I will go see every DC movie through and through. And my wife, you all know her from my channel now, she has started to watch some of those with me. She walked out of that movie and said, that was a BA movie. Like, she thought it was awesome. Like, she thought it was really cool.
I remember you saying that, yeah.
For me, I go, you know what? Maybe there's a place, and I don't know, this is a type of movie that could be attractive to those of us who are not comic book fans that are into the lore of comic books, like that it was just a group of women who were, trying to take things on their own. My wife thoroughly enjoyed this movie. My wife has never read a comic book yet still. We're still working on that. We're going to get there. So, so I have a place of I can always watch this movie with her. And I'm like, I don't love this movie, but if it's a comic book movie that she'll invest in and I enjoy, I appreciate it that it exists from that standpoint for what it is. I think sometimes we can get so caught up in it's not for me. It's not what I want. And comic books are so unique and different. And there's just a whole realm that I think, and this isn't a praise of Birds of Prey, and this isn't a praise that we need to do more movies like it, but it just is, I think there's a spot for movies like that we just, us comic fans are allowed our voice and we'll crush it. And are the ones that are the DC fans and the Marvel fans here are the ones that are giving it all the thumbs down, where I think it probably has a place where it's outside comic book fans that probably more people enjoyed it. I mean, at least my wife did.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a concept I'd be interested to see. I don't know how, but yeah, it's not a great movie. Let's
jump to another one that got a lot of crapping on from last year, which would be Wonder Woman 1984, which I will say I was somewhat of a defender of Wonder Woman 1984 in the sense that I was not willing to call it as bad as Birds of Prey or as bad as Suicide Squad or any of these movies. I don't think it's nearly as good as the original film. And I think that it has some inherent flaws in its plot and its story. I'm really happy that they zeroed in on kind of the core of Wonder Woman, which is this idea of empathy. Like her empathy is a huge part of this story. And I thought they did a nice job of zeroing in on that. And I think they captured certain elements I liked of her a lot. I don't necessarily need body swap Chris Pine. I think that was a completely stupid plot point. Why couldn't he have just been like a ghost that was like, okay, you could touch him for a little while, and then he turned around the corner and was gone? Why did he actually need to be in somebody's body? Like that just was I mean, I know that, hey, it's 80s movies throwback. We're doing like the swap, the body, little body swap comedy here. No, that's not working for me. So yeah, not a great movie, but also not just pure garbage. So that's me. Oh, Ryan.
For me, I don't know. I'm probably about where John is. Like, there's a lot of problems with that movie, but it's also far from the worst of what DC's done, And I mean, I think I saw Mark mentioning, he said it to me plenty of times too. Like, I agree with him. There's absolutely no reason that they should have even referenced what time period it was at all. Like, DC is very famously good at making media that's like out of time, but like we don't worry about it. Nobody's going, what year was the animated series set in? It don't make any sense. We don't worry about it, DC has done this with a lot of things. They did Gotham, where it's like, when does this Gotham even take place, So for me, like if they had just like did some 80s homages and never actually told us or even referenced the 80s in the movie, I think it would have just felt like another quirky DC thing, and we all would have felt a little better about it. But whenever you start going like, oh, it's the 80s and we're pinpointing her time from World War I to now and when he went missing and now he's here, like they're messing up themselves by establishing such a solid timeline. They could have played a lot more with that. And then, yeah, like the body swapping thing, so dumb. I generally don't care for magic stuff because the rules are so flexible and all this stuff.
They're just so vague.
And so I appreciate whenever a movie or a show or a story can like give me some concrete rules for your magic so I don't feel like it can just be done whenever to fix the problem with your writing. And this movie completely lacked in any explanation as to how the magic worked. And they were clearly just like flying by the seat of their pants. I also think this movie is flawed in that it's too packed, like so much other DC stuff. We did not need 3 different plot lines involving Wonder Woman, one of which being an origin movie inside of a movie for a character that doesn't even seem like she's going to have much existence beyond this movie. So you gave her a whole origin movie inside of another movie for somebody who's probably not going to go anywhere from here. What was the point in that? So I thought it was a decent movie. I think Gal Gadot is still pretty solid as Wonder Woman, although there are some hit and miss scenes in this movie, but overall it's not the worst of what DC's done. So,
Night Coach Vish, sorry, you'll have to catch the replay from when we finally get to Snyder Cut next. Sorry, brother. We've been going a little bit long, but yeah, no, I totally agree with what you're saying. And it looks like people are commenting some of the same things in the chat as well. So yeah, I mean, I think this one's been hashed up the most of late anyway, since it dropped so recently.
Yeah.
I think we definitely need to get to Justice League.
I will say Max Lord in that movie, like he is so much better than the movie he is in. Like he is killing it and he looks dopey because the rest of the movie cannot support him. He's good. He was really good.
Yeah, I will just say some of your guys' hangups are minuscule, but and you guys are overhanging up on it, but I think we're all on the same page of that. It's at the same level of quality that I enjoy. I just enjoyed it, I think, a little bit more than you guys.
Yeah. So let's do Whedon quickly. We can kind of bip through the Whedon verse here of Justice League. I know that
are we talking Justice League now?
We are Justice League now, man. This is the time. Okay, you getting your blankie?
Yeah, I'm getting my Let me get my Gal
Get
Gadot
your cozy
Batman.
blankie.
He's the 7th.
I'm the 7th
Shout out to
member of
Joel.
the Justice League.
So, I mean, I have a ton of problems with the Whedon version, and most of them obviously are brevity related. I will say a bunch of them, though, are still in the other version. So I don't know how we talk about one and then the other. This is a tricky, sticky wicket. I don't know quite how to do this because, as Greg mentioned several times, casting is a big part of how people are feeling about these characters right now, and I legitimately feel like they nailed two of the castings in the team members for the Justice League, and that the other ones are a little inconsistent for me or just completely random as well. So I struggle with casting. I struggle with some story elements that were dramatically truncated, and I think there are some plot points that are odd. I'll just say odd.
I mean, for me, this movie is like, I don't know, it's a dumpster fire, and it has a lot to do with the circumstance of trying to make this into a movie based on everything that was going on. You know, it's really hard to judge this movie fairly, but I almost feel, I don't feel better about the movie, but I feel a little bit more sympathy for Whedon after watching the new version and seeing everything he was trying to turn into a movie. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, like, the casting is hit and miss on certain characters. I think there's a lot of weird color correction stuff going on in that movie that just doesn't work, and it makes everything look real, like, blown out and stuff. And I don't know, it's just a very inconsistent movie across the board from what I remember.
Yeah. IWK, what is up? Good to see you, man.
Oh, got a new YouTube name. Nice.
Yeah, got a new YouTube. Okay, Greg, quick. Everybody wants us to skip it, so what's
what's funny is I almost wonder if, like, people. I think, like, if we did this show before Snyder Cut came out, I don't know if people would want us to skip it as much now. I think now that the people that are fans of the Snyder Cut love it so much that they're like, now we can exist. We can forget that the Justice League version we didn't want doesn't exist. We can now focus on what we dreamed it should have been. And so, because I feel like the people that would say skip it are the people that would defend Justice League before this movie came out.
Oh,
anyway,
for sure.
I say all that though of I'm still in the category. If you guys have not been watching this stream for the past hour 40 minutes, I'm in the boat of I enjoy a lot of movies. There's very few that there's issues that I have with certain movies, but I had problems with, like, this. Obviously, you could feel it felt disjointed, it felt rushed, it felt mixed. But I also don't have as much hate for Whedon for what he did, because I mean, it's more, in my opinion, on the studio for bringing it. I mean, it's like if you're saying, hey, Alex Ross is drawing a comic book, creating a comic book, and he can't finish it. And okay, well, Scotty Young, come in and finish the rest of Alex Ross's book and keep it in the same tone. They're completely two different styles. Like, that's on you as a person putting it together. Like, yeah, he probably should have said, no, I'm not going to, but they know what they were going to do. Like, so there's a little bit of, like, you're trying to take two completely different tones. So, like, I'm not going to crap on Whedon as much as people do now that they've seen Snyder's vision. Again, I will say this going into the Snyder Cut, he took away a couple of scenes that I did enjoy, moments that I did enjoy in Justice League. Mm-hmm. And I get it, they're Whedon moments. Like, the Lasso of Truth was a Whedon moment.
Yeah, through and through.
So whatever. But I think it's not as bad as people. But let's talk Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
sorry. You want to say one more thing, Ryan?
Yeah, one thing I do want to say, and I don't know, this is just a theory I've come up with recently, but knowing how the Hollywood machine works, there's also a very good chance that Warner Brothers was in the position, there was so much controversy around the Snyderverse already, and then with him dipping out, they were going to lose a lot of, like, the internet and comic book confidence. And so there's also a chance that they gave Joss Whedon a dump truck of money to put his name on the movie to get the confidence of the nerd community, and he actually had very little of anything to do with it. That's just my working theory right now. I don't know how true that is, but knowing how the Hollywood machine is, they may have just bought his name for the confidence in the market.
Well, and I also
you definitely see some of those moments I feel of that are like you can watch and say that's Whedon through and through.
And I think it's worth saying if anybody doesn't know, and I think everybody does, but like the circumstances involved the passing of Snyder's daughter and him having to basically shut down the production and go deal with family matters. And as a result, the company DC Warner Brothers not wanting to stop the production and wanting the film to still release on schedule and deciding to go forward without it. I think it was a flawed decision on several levels. And I think it's a shame. And I will say I'm very happy that Snyder was given the chance to tell his story, even if it's not something that I am like over the moon about, like the quality of the movie or the story or whatever. I think he totally deserves and thankfully got the chance to tell his story.
Yep.
So yeah, let's jump to the whole point of this whole thing is we're an hour and a half in, and I mean we got Ryan staying up till super late so that we can finally talk about the Snyder Cut.
Ryan's an hour behind me still. I don't want to hear it.
Oh, is he? Okay, I didn't know what about.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Snyder
also,
Cut.
I stayed up for Snyder Cut, so
right. All right. Well, I felt bad for you, man. You're on the Burke and Legion crew, and these guys are telling you that it's the greatest movie ever made, that it puts all of the MCU to shame. And I felt like, wait a second, let's just put it in a perspective here and have a conversation. So, where are you at, Greg?
I'm just glad that Ryan gets to have a voice here because I know Mark and Burke didn't let you on their Thursday night show because they knew you were going to be a voice of reason that it's not the greatest thing ever created in all of mankind. I love you, Mark.
I keep watching for his name to pop up again.
I know. I'm waiting. So here's my take on the Snyder Cut and everything. I'm not a movie reviewer, although I feel like I've gotten into a movie reviewer here doing the show with you, John. This is one of those movies for me, though. It's what you want it to be. I've never seen a movie, in my opinion, be more of it's whatever you want it to be. And if you went into this movie going that you can't wait for the Snyder Cut and Snyder Cut's going to be the best thing ever, that's what it was for you. I think it really was. If you were going into this movie going, I hated Justice League, it's going to be a little bit better than Justice League because it's going to be consistent. I think that's what it was for you. If you were on the edge of it, because I'm looking at all the people that I've been associated with and like reviewing and talking movies with about this and being in this community this past year, the people that hate it, we're going to hate it off the get-go.
Absolutely.
And the people that loved it, we're going to love it no matter what.
I think fully agreeing on this. Yes. Yes.
And so like if someone goes, what do you think about the Snyder Cut? I would ask them, what are your anticipation? Like, what do you think the Snyder Cut's going to be? Do you think it's going to be great? Then it will be. Do you think it's going to be mediocre? Then it will be. Because it's so much anticipation. And I think what that spans off of that is Snyder. Again, I'm with you on that same boat. I love the fact that he gets to tell the vision that he wanted to tell and that he got a chance to tell his story. This is an anomaly of a movie, though. This is not something that you're ever going to see happen again, I don't think, to a degree that this did. Snyder had the ability, and he made this movie 100% for the fans that have been backing him from the get-go and loved everything about him of what his movie were. If he didn't, then he's an idiot if he wasn't going to go that route because he has to appease the fans that have been begging for this for 3 years. Right. And the fans that have been begging for this for 3 or 4 years, whatever it has been, this is their end game. It's a shorter time frame to get to that end game than the people that have been invested since Iron Man. But this is their end game. This is the movie that people told them would never happen, would never work, would never, like, no studio is going to do a recut. And you're not going to see a 4-hour movie. I don't think if it was in theaters. He would have had to cut it, because I would be really curious. I haven't polled people outside of my comic book bubble here of my personal Facebook, my personal Instagram. There's a couple that I know watch superhero movies that have talked about Snyder Cut. It's not, I don't think it would have gotten as much praise as it is in the community that we're in, or not even praise, but just talked about as much in this community that we're in, because it's a 4-hour movie. My parents will go to movies, and my dad will go to any movie my mom drags him to. But if he sees it is over 2.5 hours, she's going by herself. And I think that would be a lot of movie going. So like, it's going to be hard to compare this movie to like anything else, because it's not realistic to do that. The circumstances that surround it, the circumstances that surround it, the fact that it's a 4-hour movie that would never work. Like, there would have to be aspects of cut, because the studio would do what they want. So, I mean, so the long story short, or long story long, I enjoyed it, but I don't know. I think you've even said it. I don't know how much I'm going to revisit it, because it's 4 hours of my life. Like, I think if I'm going to revisit it, it's going to be broken down into like, and I think this is where it would have been better as a series of taking the parts where he did it as a parts, and don't worry about it being a movie. Make it a series, because I can say, oh, I'm going to binge watch 2 episodes of Justice League and be like, cool, and not feel like, and like it would have been good, like just like I do with Lost, just like I do with anything else, with those hour-long TV shows. And then I think I would be more excited for the world that they're creating. But so again, long story long, and we can get into the nuts and bolts later. But
yeah, I want to give Ryan a shot. I mean, this comment, come on, man. You're honestly saying Edward Scissorhands is not? I mean, come on. Edward Scissorhands is a masterpiece. Let's just be honest. It is like Beetlejuice might be better, but like it is Tim Burton's masterpiece. It is an amazing movie. So I don't know what we're talking about there. You're off the deep end there, man. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, Ryan, what are you talking about? What do you got to say?
I mean, I agree with what Bearded had to say. You know, like I think it's definitely you get in what you get out what you put in. You know, so that being said, this is an anomaly, and outside of the actual content itself, I compare it most to Endgame. Like everybody went nuts over Endgame. It's the most amazing movie I've ever seen. Give it time. How many times are you going to rewatch a movie that's that long, that's just references to 10 years worth of movies coming before it? Infinity War is the more rewatchable movie. I feel the same way about this. Like people are going to watch this. I mean, I've seen it twice now. I think Mark's watched it like 3 or 4 times. People have watched it multiple times, but in 5 and 10 years, are you going to rewatch a 4-hour movie that's just a bunch of references to other movies that aren't all that great either, you know? So I think the rewatchability on this is very low, but I mean, the main reason I even watched it is because it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing. Like you're never going to see this again. If Snyder had pitched this today, it would have been a series. It would have been a 3-season series of 6 1-hour episodes each season, you know, like this is very much a kind of thing that's like lost in time, because it was started in 2013 before streaming was as big as it is. But now we're in a zone where like we want 4 hours worth of storytelling. We don't want it in that format. And I think that's the biggest thing that hurts this is the format itself.
Ooh, interesting. I love some of these takes. You guys have some great things to say.
I just want to point out, you watched it twice already?
Yeah, I watched it at like 2:00 in the morning when it released. And then I finished it like 2 minutes before I got on here for my second viewing.
Mark, answer my question in the chat. I want to know how many you watched, because it's going to be way too many.
I saw that.
Too.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Do you guys have families?
Yeah, I mean, I basically forced my family to watch it on Thursday night when we came home and work our way through it. And the girls had to go to bed. They didn't get to see the last hour or whatever. They were somewhere in part 6. I don't know where. Somewhere in part 6, they had to go to bed. I would love to talk about this for a quick second, Geek. And I am a film nerd, and the aspect ratio thing bothered me, even though I kind of understand why. So the movie was shot for IMAX. IMAX has a different formatted screen, and I don't think it. I'm gonna fire this shot. I don't think Warner Brothers was trying to preserve the Snyder vision. That's I'm sorry. No, they didn't want to spend the money to go and fix and reformat it so they could have it be widescreen. That's going to cost a crap ton of money. That's a hilarious meme. That's a genius meme, an amazing meme. It was not to preserve Snyder's vision. It was because it was going to cost them a crap ton of money to reformat it in widescreen. That's period. That is it. Period.
Yeah, because if you look at the cropped images, like you're losing literally nothing. Yeah. I have not seen a single cropped image that actually has relevant information on.
They would have had to go through the entire 4-hour movie and reformat it, and that would have been a ton of the money. So I totally understand. That why they didn't do it. You know, they had to spend money where money would be most effective, and that was on the best special effects they could get. That was on getting the actors and crew to come back and be able to reshoot things. And I think they used their money really well. But as a result, two things got short shrifted for me. One was the aspect ratio, and two was music. And I'd like to spend a little bit on the needle drops. I think the music where it's singing, like the songs, not the like orchestra stuff, which I think was pretty solid. The needle drop slow motion moments there are so many of them, and the songs they don't fit. Even if the lyrics match the moment, even if like the words they're saying, the like folk music thing they got going in this movie, I just don't get it. Like Lois Lane buying her coffee in slow motion with like the singer in the background, and Aquaman littering off the pier by smashing his bottle and throwing his shirt into the water.
Well, they're like Slovakian ladies are singing as she's sniffing Aquaman's.
I just feel like the songs were not great, and they pulled me out of the movie a bunch. They didn't have, but I can totally understand why they didn't have the budget to buy the songs that they might have wanted to, because that crap costs a ton of money. And they had, again, a limited budget. And so I'm praising Snyder for his use of that budget and where he spent his money, because I think he made smart choices with what he had at his disposal. So that works better. I will also quote I Got Issues, who posted a really great comment today, which is like, saying that it's better than the original is not a compliment, and it's not impressive, and it's not anything anybody should use to qualify this movie. Because, you know, a polished turd or whatever, right? I mean, like, really, like, that was a low bar, and we shouldn't be going around saying it's better than their last one. Yeah, obviously, like that's it freaking better be. You gave me a whole other movie on top of the 2-hour movie you gave me. You gave me a whole other movie. It better be better, right? So yeah, it is definitely a better movie. The question becomes how much better. I'm in the boat of saying this is probably a 7 out of 10 for me, which, as hilarious as Mark and I's banter, I think I heard Mark say he gave it an 8 out of 10. So it's not like we're like so far off in our perspectives on this. I think that's what he said, and he can correct me if he's saying something different. And I know Craig's not here, but it would be nice if he was here.
I feel like Craig's never here. I always want Craig to be in a chat that I'm in. He's never here. Like, it's sad.
Thunderhouse is here though. They do have a large music rights. I agree. But so anyways, so I think the film is very good, and I think I would put it above the average in the list of movies we've talked about tonight. I think it would be above the average, because there are so many of the ones that I would put near the bottom of the barrel. However, it still suffers from a lot of the things the other one suffered from, and I would never call this the greatest movie ever made, the greatest superhero movie ever made. I'm trying to stay away from the hyperbole that everybody wants to paint it with. The worst movie ever made, the worst superhero movie ever made. I feel like the hyperbole train that Greg was talking about is like on full speed at this point. And I feel like the reality is the movie is somewhere in the middle, and it's effective and it works and it's good, but it's not the all-time greatest movie ever.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I was trying to watch it from a different perspective. And I don't know, Ryan, if you did this, but I know John and I did this. In prepping for this show, we watched, and I'd be curious if you in the chat, I know Mark, you've been hyping up about this, and we're referencing you a lot because we would just like your opinion on this and stuff. But any of you else in the chat, like how many of you watched Justice League, the Whedon cut first, or pretty recently, and then watching that? I will say I think it helped my viewing of the Snyder Cut, but I also think it hurt my viewing of the Snyder Cut from the aspect of the first hour and a half. There were elements that Snyder put in it that made it drag for me in that first hour and a half, that because I had just watched 2 days, and again, this is my own viewing for prepping for the show. I watched the Whedon Cut 2 version 2 days or 3 days before watching this. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a slower part of the movie already, and we're extending it more. I didn't need the interaction with the Jason Momoa being a translator in the bar scene. I didn't need some of those. It just felt like it dragged on a little bit more. And so I feel like that probably hurt my perspective a little bit. So I'm trying to keep things in my mode, but if I was going in with a negative mindset, and that's why I say what I said, if I was going in with a negative mindset of Snyder Cut and I watched that first hour and a half, I probably would have said, this is trash. I'm not going to watch anymore. I'm bored out of my mind. I've had people that I've seen their posts that have said that. I'm not going to call people out because they're not here to defend themselves, but like, there are moments I enjoyed the second half of the Snyder Cut a lot more because of what was added into it. But it felt very much connected of a movie. There are issues that I had with some of Whedon part. They were fixed in this for sure. I didn't not dislike the Flash's character as much as I did in Whedon's version because.
But that's a measured response, right? Like
right, it is. It's a
like
measured
saying,
response.
And that's my frustration too. Is like saying that that this is better doesn't for me fix it, because I feel like Ezra Miller is still as annoying and still frustrating and still doesn't fit, Barry Allen.
But I also will say, but you have to, because this is an anomaly of a movie. We have never seen it where we get a movie version of something and then we're saying, here's a retry. Let me know what you like if it works. I mean, by golly, it has to be better or they really drop the ball. Because if you say it's worse than the movie, then they'd really drop the ball. Because but so I get it. It's not fair to say oh, well, it's better than a turd. If you thought it was a turd, you still have to figure out we're talking about an anomaly of a movie that has never happened before in my knowledge of movie films, of a movie being created. We've gotten director cuts before, but this is different than the Ridley Scott Superman 2, not Ridley Scott, Richard Donner.
The Donner cut.
Right.
The Donner cut. This is different from the extended version that you got of Batman Superman. So yeah, I think they aren't going to be able to recast this movie.
No.
And so they had to deal with what they dealt with. So they definitely made Flash better. They took the weaker points of the movie that people had issues with. I think the biggest casting issues people had were Flash and then the character of Cyborg being in the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like the casting of Cyborg.
Yeah.
I just didn't think he was used very well in the Whedon cut, and he's used far better here.
Right. And I think he did a better job in this.
Speaking on Ezra Miller's Flash.
Yeah.
The first time I watched everything with Justice League, hated the Flash, right? And then we get to the Snyder Cut, and I watched it the first time, and I was like, good Lord, Ezra Miller's really annoying as this Flash. And then you watching it the second time today, I have to say, he's really annoying, but now I have a better idea of why I hate him so much. Because, their version is supposed to be a blend of a bunch of things that make no sense for the character they provide. Because they wanted to say that he might be on the spectrum. I lived with somebody with Asperger's for 2 years. he was never that outgoing and friendly.
Right.
He was a lot of fun. He was an interesting person, but he was never that outgoing. Barry Allen's supposed to be kind of a power fantasy of somebody with ADD or ADHD. I've never met anybody with ADD or ADHD that is that outgoing and friendly. Like, the guy is so outgoing and friendly and supposed to be the comedic relief. But if we assume that he has two of the things that would make him not outgoing and not personable, well, then what is that character supposed to be? It makes no sense to me. It seems like a anomaly, conundrum kind of situation.
And I mean, we could go into casting time as well here, because I do feel like there are huge hits and huge misses when it comes to the overall team. And I think that they, like Greg is saying, they ironed out some of them so that the rougher edges are smoother, but it doesn't eliminate stuff for me from the casting side. Right. But then there's plot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super frustrated by how free and loose they are with identities. Can we get to the moment when Batman's walking around the little village with Aquaman and they're like, yeah, I dress up as a bat. You dress up as a bat? Oh, cool, Bruce Wayne. I'll talk to you later. And they're like, this whole village fucking knows that he's Batman now? This entire village knows that he's Batman. How about when Superman returns and he's like flying around and all these cops and soldiers are there and everybody's like, hey, Clark. Hey, Clark. Clark, calm down. Nobody just says Superman. The soldiers are right there. So now, like, this entire military complex knows his identity. I feel like they're like, why couldn't the characters have said Superman in that moment? Why couldn't they? Why did they need? So it's not, again, this is not like, oh, you know, Snyder plays loose with the identities. It's not that big a deal. Why did they have to? Is my question. Like, why did they need to do it that way? It just seemed like useless. Let's just have everybody know everybody's identity now.
All right. Well, all right. Now I feel like I've been against John. I've been with John too much on this show lately. This last part with Snyder, like, we're on the same page. So I gotta come back at you a little bit. Like, DC has never been, and I know I commented in your video when you were talking about DC has never been tight with their identities with Batman. If you watch Batman the animated series, that homie gets his identity revealed. Now it's usually to a lady that he finds himself attracted to, but he gets his identity revealed more than anyone else. Like, pretty frequently, and he does. I feel like,
but let's put that aside. Doesn't this feel like they just took that and they were like, you know how we kind of sometimes play loose with identities? Let's just blow that shit up. Let's just go like, hey, that whole village is going to know. And hey, this whole group of people, everybody's just going to freaking know this stuff. Let's just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
get
it.
Like, the glass shattering moment on that, where the internal logic failed on that issue, is whenever they get off the plane in Gotham and the bat signal goes up and Barry's like, oh, look, it's your symbol. We got to go do stuff. And then Diana Prince is right there and he's like, like, he shouldn't have revealed that he's Batman in front of, and I'm like, so y'all don't even know who does and doesn't know the identities at this point. Like,
but also, like, the point is, yeah, John, but they do it all the time. And I'm like, but why? My point is, why are they doing it?
Well, because I think that's something we see in superheroes. We see it with Marvel. We see it with DC. Secret identities aren't really a secret.
Marvel established it in the first movie, though.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. But they haven't. Yes, they have established it. But secret identities have never been like as secret as we've held it out to be. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is just my own naiveness or my DC fanboy.
I fully disagree that they don't speak English, because Bruce talks to them in English the whole time and they fully understand it. Bruce talks to them in English the whole time. He's like, I got money. He's talking. And they're like, I fully disagree that nobody there speaks English. I think they don't give a crap. They're like, I don't give a crap about Bruce Wayne. I fully disagree with that.
The whole Clark point, though, is you've got two cops who A, are flustered, and B, are they going to put two and two together of how many Clarks do you know in the world?
Lois Lane, the reporter, is running around. She knows that cop personally because we saw her bring him freaking coffee every day. And she's running around screaming her husband's name at the guy flying in the air.
They aren't husband yet, though.
She's wearing
His name
the
is
ring.
Clark. He's in
That
a
only Martha knows
metropolitan
about.
area. He looks like a farmer.
For me, it just was like there was no reason to do it. Is the part that bugs me?
yeah.
Like, why do it?
Yeah, but see, this is where
It's
I
just
guess
a consistency thing.
this
Just
is
don't do it. That's just stupid.
yeah, I guess like though this is where I made a slight about it earlier in the show, and I'm gonna say it again. I'm like, I feel like some of the things that you get hung up on like are like really like that's gonna be the make or break for you.
It's not the make or break. It's just like at some point you just keep throwing those straws on until the camel's back breaks.
That's why
right? You just keep throwing them on. Like, yeah,
too.
don't worry about that one. Yeah, but ignore 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 that one.
You've ignored more of the movie that actually exists.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
it just adds
hours.
up.
There were 4 hours in the movie. What John is referencing is 30 seconds of the movie. I have not.
I love that people did notice that. I had to point that out to my daughters that it was Jimmy Olsen.
What was the deal with what was the deal with Batman's voice? Like, was he developing a cold the farther they went into filming? Because he was almost where's the trigger by the end of it.
I don't know about that one.
Like his
I know that they had like
more
the,
gravelly and hard to understand toward the end.
Didn't he have like a device though that was supposed to like change his voice as he was when he was suit?
That was in Batman versus Superman. I think they used it a little bit in this one, but I don't remember it being there all the time.
I thought so. How about this? What were your feelings about the because my girls were pissed about the Wonder Woman Batman romance that was being hinted at all at different points. My girls were like, did they really just do like an awkward like love moment between Batman and Wonder Woman?
I felt like they took most of that out on Snyder Cut.
The mouse bit was still in there. The whole the mouse reach for the mouse, then he puts her hand, and then, oh, sorry, that was awkward. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
those things happen. I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Bruce Wayne is rich, and it's Ben Affleck, and it's Gal Gadot. I don't know, like. I'm not gonna get too hung up on that either. Like
on a meta level, yeah. My issue with it is though, it reminds me of how they use Black Widow in the Marvel movies, right?
Okay.
They're like, okay, in this movie, somebody needs to be attracted to Black Widow. Let's pick the person we're going to use the least.
Well said.
And that's kind of what this felt like. Was like we need some sort of romance plot. Yeah. So like, let's hook Gal and
you can't
Bruce
have a hot woman in a movie without having everybody be interested.
Yeah.
And I disagree. What romance, Legion? Because my girls picked up on it several different times, going like, wait a second, this seems like there's a little bit of a hinting at something here.
Yeah.
And I felt like, why? Again, it's another question of just why do it? Like, why?
Yeah,
and again,
there were like
it reminded me of the moments where they
scenes.
they want to hint that Black Widow is interested in everybody. It just seemed like, why? That was an odd choice.
2 scenes where they kind of hint at it, and then there's the mouse scene where it's just like blatant and obvious that they're trying to set something up here. But it's there. Yeah, it's definitely there.
Oh, it's there. But I'll ask your why question.
They must have all been royalty, Legion. They must have all been royalty because all of royalty can breathe out of water.
I'll ask your question of why with why does it matter? Who cares if there's a little bit of a romance?
Because wouldn't we all want to get with Gal Gadot?
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying, and Ben Affleck is no slub either. Like, let's call a spade a spade.
See, I was about to say, isn't he kind of washed up by now?
No,
his personal life is so drugged.
He was. I felt like he was like. I didn't like him from like Daredevil, but after like the Daredevil and Gigi or whatever bus, like man, the guy had been in some great movies like Argo and stuff, and like so I would be hard pressed to say he was a bust, but yeah.
No. I mean, I think he's an amazing actor for most of his career, but I mean, his personal life got very public for a while there.
Sure, but that's it's sometimes hard.
I was like Gal Gadot, I'd be like, I don't want that.
I hope that was not a thought that Batman would end up with Lois Lane. That's even crazier than Wonder Woman. I'm trying to think of any other things we really want to get into with this. I
will say this. Yes, we haven't mentioned the slow motion too much. Yeah. I will say this though. Good golly, the gratuitous hot dog scene was completely unnecessary. Like I loved having Iris in there, and I thought it was perfect. But then
liked her a lot better than Barry.
they made Barry a creeper. They made Barry a creeper in this, and it was uncomfortable. It was weird in that slow motion, and then the creepiness of Barry's character already in that moment, and then just the gratuitous hot dogs just flying all over. I'm like,
is that a hot dog you got
and
in
then
your
you
pocket?
pull it where he's like, oh, I'm gonna save a hot dog for later so I can feed it to the dogs because it was silly and unnecessary. And this is where I'm cutting stuff in my mind. I'm like, I cut that scene a little bit, please, but give me a little bit more of my life back because it's a 4-hour movie.
Right. The one bit I'd love to discuss cutting, and were it me, I would have basically told Snyder, like, hey, you want to make 2 movies? Here's your deal. You make your movie, and then we do the whole Batman apocalyptic Superman future mind blow crap as a separate freaking movie. I want to cut all that stuff out of Batman versus Superman and out of this and make a separate movie out of it.
I don't even want a separate movie. I don't want that ever.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in the. I mean, it's cool. I'm not saying it's not cool. It looks cool. Everybody's got cool looking desert costumes and everybody's like looking all futuristic-y, whatever. It doesn't fit in this movie. Mm-hmm. Am I the only one that feels this way?
No. See, I brought this up the other day to Mark. In fact, like what I don't get is that Zack Snyder goes. Yeah, I know, right? What I don't understand, Zack Snyder makes a movie, right? He makes a 3-hour version of Batman versus Superman, and the studio goes, we can't release that in theaters. It's not going to make money. And so instead, they edited a theatrical version, and then he got his full version on the full release, right? The director's cut, ultimate cut. Why in the world would, if I was Zack Snyder, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to make a 3-hour movie and I'm going to cut the theatrical version so that I get to put a story together that I'm putting together. And then when it comes out, everybody will get to see my full vision. And he should have done the same thing with Justice League. But instead, it's like he thinks that the studio is eventually going to cave and say, yeah, we'll put your 3-hour movie in theaters. No, they won't. They're going to cut their own version and you're not going to like it. So why wouldn't you just agree to cut the theatrical version and promise all the fans they'll get the full version on the release? That way you could have more of that creative control he seems to crave so much.
I will say this, as watching the Snyder Cut for the first and only time for a while, this movie, anytime I say it, I'm not saying this as in like a knock to it, because I did enjoy the movie. I was pissed when we got to the nightmare scene. I'm like, no, like, I don't care. I don't care about this scene. You don't have to defend why you put that in Batman versus Superman. I don't care about these moments. And I am so thankful that there was another scene after that wasn't how they ended the movie, because it would have left the most sour taste in my mouth, because it's not a movie that I care about. And it felt just thrown in there to throw in. To say this is why I did what I did in Batman versus Superman, like, because all you guys that don't like it, this is why I did it, and this is what could have happened, and I didn't like it at all. And I've heard people really dig the Batman and Joker interaction. Good. I said this on Hero and the Kid last night, so if you tuned in for there, I didn't hate Jared Leto's portrayal of Joker in Suicide Squad. This version, though, was not that at all. And this version felt like it was Jared Leto portraying the Joker, trying to impersonate Heath Ledger's impersonation. Like, it felt
now off. You're getting meta.
It felt like his character felt off. There was something about the Joker in this film that just, I was like, this doesn't feel right to me. And it felt like Jared Leto Joker trying to do a parody of, not a parody, but like trying to then impersonate Heath Ledger's portrayal. And because people have been comparing that Batman interaction to the Batman interaction in the jail scene, and it did not work for me. And I would have rather had it not been in there than to say, well, this is what I hope to do later with mine. Just, you're not Empire Strikes Back. Just wrap it up. We give us other little notes like,
wow, who would have thought Greg would be the one going so hardcore here at the end of this? You're
just
going
hated
ham,
the
buddy.
nightmare scene. I despised it. I don't like it. Out of
That's
context.
funny.
And Batman is not going to sit there and say "F you." Like that's just not Batman to me.
He does roll pretty hard there at the end.
Like I get it. I get why he was. If you're talking about his fam like that, I get it. But you want to complain about Batman killing people? I don't see Batman being like "F you" to someone, just like Cyborg dropping it in the "F the Earth." Like it just felt like unnecessary.
So it sounds like pretty much everybody in the chat did not like those sequences. Lots of people saying it felt out of place, didn't fit where it belongs.
Thank you. All right.
Hated the nightmare sequences. TJ says that was the plan for the next Justice League movie. The last scene was a setup for the third movie. And I feel like I didn't need it. Like, I feel like I didn't. You just put all that stuff in another movie, and I think it would have been fine. And for me, it didn't even work as motivation for Batman to either want to kill Superman in Batman versus Superman or want to save him. Like, it didn't work for any of that either. Like, it just doesn't. It's unnecessary. But that's just me.
I will say.
To respond to that comment.
Go ahead.
This analogy may be lost on this audience. I don't know, but several years ago, Microsoft, they tried to announce their Xbox One, and they said it's going to be online only. And then all the fans backlash, rah, 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 we don't want to be online only. And so they canceled that, and they're like, oh, and these are all the features we were going to have that y'all could have got, but because you threw a big fit, now you don't get it. I feel like that's kind of what Snyder did here. Like, he just started throwing every clip he could find into this movie so that we would watch it and be like, ha, that's what you get for trying to cancel me. You could have had all of this, and now you don't get any of it.
Yeah. And I love Thunderhouse is saying if it had just ended when Superman rips open his shirt and ran into the camera, it would have been a better, more hopeful ending. Yeah. But that's not Snyder's Justice League. Like he has
my
a
wife
heavier,
started to get up
view.
and I was like, nope, you still got another 20 minutes.
He's gonna definitely end.
Well, it's funny. I was messaging John the whole time and I'm like, hey John, where are you at? He goes, epilogue. I was like, oh cool. So text me in 45 minutes when
I'll catch you in an hour when it's over. Yeah. I like this comment from Gory. Says DC needs to reboot with Titans, Green Lantern Corps, Legion of Superheroes, and begin with a younger group and then incorporate some of those other guys. I will say this. I think one of the things that they need to do in general is hire someone to manage all of this and just oversee all of this. Because I feel like either there's nobody at the wheel or the people at the wheel have just no real interest in creating something that we're going to enjoy. So either they start doing what you've mentioned earlier, Ryan, which is let's just make individual films that are separate and Elseworld if they need to be Elseworld, but then interconnected whenever we want them to be. Or they need to get somebody at the helm of the ship really managing these things. Somebody with a creative vision that can they had, the MCU had Jon Favreau early on, and Jon Favreau was doing basically what he's doing over there at Star Wars right now and managing all these different things. He was doing Iron Man. He was in touch with what was going on over for the Avengers. He was in touch with the guys doing Thor, and he was really involved as a creator. And I think Snyder's been doing that. But I don't think he got full reign, and I do think it was very inconsistent. I think if they had somebody doing that, I think it would make, a more consistent product.
Yeah. Well, rumor is, I think somebody just mentioned this too. But rumor is that's why James Gunn, when he left Marvel, DC picked him up to do a movie and become their architect. And so when Marvel rehired him for Guardians, that's why he's going to go do Guardians 3, but there's nothing planned for him after that because he'll be immediately returning back to DC to architect everything for their universe.
And I think I mentioned, I don't know who I was talking to about that. Maybe it was one of you guys. I don't know that he's the guy I would pick just because his taste is very dark and very odd. Yeah. And I just think DC needs somebody else at the helm. I don't know who I would pick. I think a Nolan would have been great right after Dark Knight Rises, bringing in a Nolan and just letting him oversee talented people like Snyder and interconnecting stuff that way. But I don't know. It looks like Greg's shaking his head at me like I need to get out of here, John. You're talking crap now.
No, I did not mean to come off of that. I think if you're right, if they have an architect to kind of do it. I also agree though with Ryan of the idea of I think DC is just going to do better now if they just do what they want to do with their movies and not. I think what DC felt they've got forced into a bubble of trying to compete with the MCU model, and that hurt for them because they didn't design their world to be the MCU model. Superman Returns and came out right at the same time as the Nolan Batmans. They weren't connected.
No,
they weren't intended to be connected. Now, granted, Returns didn't do good anyways, but I think if they just say, like, let's just tell the story, let's make it a black label, let's tell a story we want to tell and tell it, it's fine. And I think that's, like, I'm excited for the Batman, movie coming up. I think it's not in continuity with other stuff, and that's fine. And I don't need it to then say, okay, now we got, if Pattinson is the good one now with Pattinson, like, I don't need them to say, okay, now we're going to roll with Pattinson and we're going to find him with Michael B. Jordan as Superman, whatever they want to, whatever people are throwing out there. And now this is a new, let it be that. Let Batman just be a Batman movie and take a chance on some properties like Marvel did with Guardians of the Galaxy. Give me a Booster Gold. Give me a Green Lantern Corp. Give me, a Lobo. Give me anything that's not connected to the universe. That's fine. And that's why I said, give me more of those Joker one-shot movies with the Batman villains. There's so many characters to explore that. And DC, I will say, as much of a DC fan as I am, they are all about the big two. And they are with their comics. And there's so much they have so many great talents in comic books that they have so much categories that they can go to. Like, and I think they're doing it a little bit more with their live action TV shows, Teen Titans, Swamp Thing. I know that got canceled, but that's for other reasons because of stuff. Doom Patrol, they took a chance, and I think that was successful. Like, there are some of those properties that they can utilize, and it's just as taking the chance. So
I saw that, and I know that his name has been on a lot of these movies, but I don't get the sense that he's doing very much.
No,
I get the sense that it's just like they're just paying. I think they're just paying him. I don't know that he's actually I want like somebody who's not necessarily like a Feige, but certainly like a Jon Favreau was for that first phase of the MCU. Like the Russo brothers have been for the later phases of the MCU. They've had these creative individuals working underneath Kevin Feige for the studio, working underneath him to kind of
they've picked up the
manage all that.
The showrunner model.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. DC needs to do that.
Yeah.
And the comment above, Thunderhouse Design says that the Batman movie is already being tied in with HBO Max with Gotham. It's true, but at least that's a different universe. Like, no one is and there might be some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. apologists here. Like, no one is saying like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the greatest thing ever because it's tied to the MCU. That only exists. That only worked somewhat, and I don't know how it got 4 seasons because it had MCU attached to it. Like, that people thought they had to watch that to understand what's going on in the MCU. I watched the first 6 episodes and I said, I'm out. I can't do this. And I've enjoyed the MCU.
That's about where I think I got maybe a little further than you.
So I get it. They're trying to tie it in, but I'm not going to say a TV show on HBO Max is the same thing as tying it into the overarching movie world because that's a different animal.
I totally agree, Biggie Shaq, and you should check out the show that Bearded and I did 2 weeks ago when we were breaking down all the DC movies leading up to Man of Steel, and we went through some Swamp Thing. We did Batman Forever. We did a bunch of great classic DC movies that are maybe a little more dear to me than the Snyder films overall. We need to get out of here. The links for these two men's channels are down below. Ryan, is there anything you want to mention, let people know about before they click over there and subscribe?
I mean, I have a video coming out tomorrow that I think is probably the funniest thing I've ever done. So if nothing else, subscribe to that and check it out. Yeah.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun to make.
And I mean, Greg's been doing stuff. He's been on this channel a ton. So people should hopefully know what Greg's been up to. Right. My girls and I loving the Friday show every Friday. Charlie and I watch it on the way home. Anything special got coming up? Anything we should be knowing about? Same old Friday, Monday.
I've got back to my show, Ryan Grant, who's been on my show a couple times because he's got a Kickstarter dropping. Wednesday, Wildcard Wednesday, just creating new things. I did a new series that I'm kind of excited for, and I want y'all to check it out if you haven't. I love the Friday shows too. So this last Wednesday, I dropped an episode called "Who Would You Cast?" and it literally was because of this. I posted Tuesday prepping for this show, or Monday night, like I rewatched Justice League, and I was like, it's not as bad as I thought. And John was like, the casting, the boy who's 7 is like, I hated Aquaman and Flash's casting. I had like 5 people who I really appreciated that, like, and I respect in this YouTube community. They're like, I didn't like the casting. I was like, well, who would I cast differently? And so it kind of, I was like, I'm going to put this out there before someone steals my idea. But I want to kind of maybe bring this into a kind of, maybe it'll be one of my first live streams I do, a type of show of like, once a month bringing up a movie and bringing people on of John and stuff like, okay, you have to recast this movie and it could be a movie that worked or it could be a movie that didn't work, and just get people to kind of in the chat to vote like who brought the best one. And then we as a group in a chat create like the ultimate casting of our casting.
I love the concept. I love the execution. The idea that you had to keep one member of the cast. You were allowed to, but also you had to keep one member of the cast. And which for a movie like this meant, ooh, who do you pick? Because I was torn, Cavill and Godot. Like I would be happy keeping both of them if I could.
Right.
You went with Godot, and I personally would have gone with Cavill just because I feel like that's a challenge to find somebody of that stature, physicality, and acting chops to really pull that role off. But I could say the same for Godot. I wonder what great discussion came around that. I agreed with pretty much all of your casting choices, even the hot take ones. I thought you had some great ideas. So it's a fun concept for a new show if people haven't checked it out.
Yeah. So if you're not, check it out, Beard Comic Bro. You know.
PJ says that these are the upcoming DC movies on the horizon. They've got a Superman movie that I don't know about. I didn't know about that.
They are.
Are they really doing a Superman? Is this with the gentleman who's playing right now on the TV series?
No, they're trying to figure out who it's going to be, and that's why I mentioned like Michael B. Jordan. This is where you might get the African American portrayal of Superman. So
that's
they're just
the hot spec I've been hearing about. Okay, and then
Yep.
Batman, of course, Wonder Woman, a third film, Green Lantern, Jon Stewart, which I'd be very happy about.
Well,
Hawk
the Green
Girl,
Lantern they're doing as the TV series first off.
Yeah, the Green
HBO
Lantern
Max.
core show.
Yes.
Yeah. But these are the films that I think he was highlighting. It's so wonderful to have people in this chat like Todd Christian, who's like, hey, what are you guys doing next? Because I've got some things. I had forgotten to load the images, and that's what I was doing when I was looking at my phone there for a second. I was like, oh, crap. I know we're nearing the end of the show, and I've got to share. Then we're going to be talking about the Oscars. Oscars. Yeah.
I forgot about that, too. I forgot we literally made these to promo it.
You made these, yeah. Greg has got us. He was like, you know what we should talk about is the Oscars. And I will say I have not watched all the movies for any Oscar year in a long while. So he was like, hey, you know what we should do? A bunch of these movies are streaming now. It would be totally easy for the audience to watch along with us. So we're going to do 2 Academy Award related shows next month. First up, we're going to do a show discussing our favorites from the Academy Award winning Best Pictures of all time. We're going to go through all the movies that won Best Picture, and we're going to pick out our all-time favorite ones and discuss the hot take ones, maybe that people love that we don't as much, or the ones that we think are great and maybe under or overrated. Then the Saturday after the Oscars, right? Isn't that what it is?
No, it's this. No, so this
was it the Saturday before?
This is going to happen, gang. The Saturday before the Oscars. So the Oscars are taking place Sunday. We're going to discuss kind of all the new categories, and I'm going to create something to get the chat involved. I'm going to, if you want to play at home with us, I'm going to create a category. We're going to talk about the top all 8. So I think out of the 8, if you put that up, John,
so these are the movies that are nominated for Best Picture.
So there are at least 3 that you have to rent. 3 of the 8 you rent. Others, if you own most streaming services, you get it. So you can go 5 of 8 with the Best Picture, and the best actor, actresses, best director. So we're going to talk about the best 5 is kind of what I'm going to come up with a game. I don't know how yet, but I want to see like y'all get to vote with us and pick of like what you guys think. That show will be focusing on the best picture nominees. Right. But then and I'll give away something for whoever wins the best of whoever wins. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we just wanted to find a way that we could bring you guys in the chat have been with us so much and participate so much. We kind of were like, let's do an episode. We'll do the one issue as a filler, but then this end of let's prep. Most of them are all streaming, and then maybe pay $10 to watch the other 3 to rent if you really want to invest. You have a chance that you don't have to go to the theater to do it, and you can play along with us and really have a commentary of what's transpiring right now. And then
that'll be the Saturday right before the Oscars.
Yes.
Nice.
And then we'll get to see what happens and see who does what and who's right or wrong in the chat.
I think it was a great idea because it's such an unusual year for movies, and all of us weren't able to go out and see as many in the theaters. So it's kind of a fun way to watch the movies. Yeah. So I put that little post up there, but I'm also going to post it on my Instagram so that you can see where to find the movies if you want to be able to watch as many of the Oscar movies as we're going to try to watch all of them. So hopefully you can be there with us for that and then discuss them. That'll be the weekend, the Saturday before the Oscars. 2 weeks before that, which I wanted to say was the 10th, but I can't remember.
So I think it's, so 10th, we're talking best pictures of all time. 24th, we're talking.
Perfect. Look at me, I did it.
Current, yep.
So on the 10th, on the 10th, we'll talk about all-time favorite Oscar movies. And then on the 24th, we'll talk about this year's Oscar films. Right. So that's the plan for, what are we in, April now?
So I expect my PJ King, my Todd Christian, my Gore, my TJ, all y'all who have been in the chat, my Joels, you guys watch these with us. Yep.
But it didn't win Best Picture, so sorry, Gore. As far as I remember, I don't think it won Best Picture. So we're only doing the ones that won Best Picture. So we're going to go through all of those films. I even made a spreadsheet and like started pulling the ones that I'm like, I don't care about those. But these are the ones I like.
I'm assuming Crash is one that you don't care about.
You know, funnily enough, I was working for a film festival, and we were the world premiere of Crash at our film festival. So nobody got to see it first. Paul Haggis was there, and some of the actors were there, and they came to our film festival for the opening night movie. And then it went on a year later to win Best Picture, and we were like, heck yeah, that was our movie. Like we took so much ownership for this movie that had nothing to do with us. But so I have a little soft spot for Crash. I don't hate it as much as the rest of the world.
I don't mind it as much as people.
But I'm also that way about American Beauty, which basically the world hates, and I'm still like, I kind of like American Beauty. Well, I mean, it's not going to probably. Neither one will probably make my list. Were
solid movies.
Yeah, I mean, they're not straight garbage or anything. They're not Suicide Squad.
Joel, for the 24th show, I will be fancy. I'll bust out a little bubbly rather than my bourbon.
Ooh, yeah, maybe we should be doing something a little fancy, a little black tie. I don't know,
black tie,
little red carpet.
There we go.
Ryan, huge thanks for staying up so late. This is our longest show, and I think it was totally worth it though for all the stuff we got into and for having you on. I appreciate you coming, man.
I mean, it fits the theme. It was a 4-hour movie, so we're getting out early as far as I'm concerned.
No, it's good because I feel like, Ryan, I've only been with, like, we talk all the time in Discord, and I've been on streams with you on like late nights with some other channels. But like this was actually our first show, I feel like, where it was like we're gonna talk about stuff specifically. So I was glad that you were on with us because you brought a good take. I'm excited. I was glad that you were on, and I'll have you on anytime we do certain movie topics that tickle your fancy.
Yeah, I had a blast.
Awesome. And of course, thanks, Greg, for doing this and for willing to stay up late, man.
Man, listen, if we get to talk about DC movies, you know I'm down.
Sorry, Craig, I know. But hey, there's always a few winners buried in there. Even if you don't love all of them, there's always a few good ones buried in. You just got to look for them.
So I take it Craig didn't like it when we did the musicals either, huh?
No, he was our number one fan for that one. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, Thunderhouse Design, for saying great job. And you should definitely catch the rewind. We will be back again on the 10th. And until then, have a great time and enjoy some movies.